complicated, sound no vibe at all. She's kinda small and sagging tits. I heard she fucked a guy to get in or throw shade. It's okay. People stare at what I wear, get upset when I gain weight. Nameless trust, pink body airs, pass of insincere excuses. What am I gonna do with those pass of insincere excuses? Oh, I can't sit here and pretend that it's fine in the end. No, my life is for me, gotta live for me. Oh, I can't sit here and pretend I did that way before. I can't ignore. People stare at what I wear, get upset when I gain weight. Nameless trust, pink body airs, pass of insincere excuses. What am I gonna do with those? Say, what am I gonna do with those insincere excuses? Insincere excuses. Insincere excuses. Hate me.
Target acquired.
Eagle 1, first strike. You have permission to engage the target.
Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
All right, we're back. We're bad. Might be mad. You never know. You never know. How is everybody out there tonight? It's going to be a good night of debating tonight. course, tonight the subject is Democrats being held responsible. This is going to be a theme throughout the week. There's a special debate on Friday, which I will get into momentarily. Hold on to your ears for that one. But tonight we're going to be discussing, with all the fraud, with all of the intentional fleecing of American taxpayers, ought the Democrats be held accountable? It's going to be great. It's going to be wonderful. I think you all know where I stand on this issue. Obviously, I think they need to be held accountable. Obviously. Only have a few people in here right now. The show's still early. Haven't even tapped in over on the Discord, which we will be doing shortly. It's going to be great, guys. You just don't know. I can't even. I'm very excited for this. Very, very excited. It's an all-star cast tonight. You couldn't make this up, right? Like, this is just wonderful. So we have in the house tonight, we have me. I'm on deck. Fabian Liberty, my man Scott, is out there. It's going to make some shit happen. Tyler, the average debate enjoyer, who's probably skulking around in the chat right now, being very quiet, but he's there, probably. Tyler is going to be there. Wick of Wick TV will be there. He's going to be part of this. And Sociologic, who I believe is in one of the affected states, he is also going to be a part of this show tonight. It's going to be a good debate. Obviously, it's hosted by Admiral Gibbs. It looks to be basically kind of me on the conservative side, Fabian Liberty Scott on the ANCAP side, Tyler, who's a center-ish guy, Sociologic, who in theory is center, but left for sure, and Wick, who is a leftist. He could claim to be centrist, but I think he's a lefty. So it's going to be me holding it down for the home team. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. Yeah. We're going to make it happen tonight, Captain. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be badass. All right. Let's see who we've got out there in chat. Kronos 420 was the first in the chat tonight. He was kind of going off. Then the Growling Arachnid. I see you're back. Good to see you. Back in the chat there. Good to have you back. Then Void Ace dropped in along with Thumping Weevil. And we've got I want something. I don't know. I want Chapern Nose. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that person's in here. Good to see. You're super derp. I'm not ignoring you. You were the first one in. Hey, Michelle, my moderator, long absent, is back. And I know that you're going through some stuff, so I'm glad to see you out there. Thank you. The background is for the new show as well, mostly. But it looks good. I don't even bother to change between the two. I think it looks good. We've got the rifles and the pistol and the body armor. Got the book Reactive Shooting Science right behind me. So yeah, we got it going on. It's good times. Got hats. We have the man card hat, Michelle. If you go to gunprattle.net, you can order your very own man card hat. So, ladies and gentlemen, I have lost weight. I've lost about 40 pounds, give or take. I haven't actually weighed myself in the past couple of days. I could be down about 43, 45 pounds. So somewhere along in there. So you'll see this plastered all over the place, I'm sure. But Friday, assuming this holds together, Friday, we have a debate to end all debates. It'll be at 5 p.m. on Friday, so it's tough. I know you guys, that are out there working and stuff. It's gonna be tough. But what is scheduled to happen is it's going to be Destiny, some dude named Dev, which I don't know who that is, me, Kung Fu Joe, Stream Rift, and Wick will be debating Jan 6. Were the Democrats the actual insurrectionists? So that's right. Going to take on Destiny on his favorite subject, January 6th. The actual, I'm not actually sure what the actual prompt is. Pretty sure that it is. I'm pretty sure the actual prompt is: are the Democrats responsible for actually responsible for inciting the insurrection? And I believe it's going to be on Wick's channel, but we'll find out. So that happens on Friday. And again, supposedly it's going to be 4 conservatives versus Destiny and Dev. I'm also trying to get Tim Hale, criminally funny J6er, in as well. There's a lot of evidence here, man. There's a lot of evidence here. We're going to get into it on Friday. But tonight we're talking about, should the Democrats be held responsible for all the fraud that's going on? I say yes. I absolutely do say yes. Because if it were the case that there was such mass amounts of fraud in, for example, I don't know, say pick a state, like, I don't know, Tennessee. If there was mass amounts of fraud in Tennessee, the Democrats would be lined up around the block to beat the brakes off of the Republicans. Sorry, guys, I have to take a text really quick. I apologize. It's highly unprofessional of me. So we've got a lot going on here. I know I kind of went from 0, where basically I took most of December off. And now we're just back at it hardcore. We're hammering it. We're going to hammer it. We're going to make it happen, Captain. Got a lot of stuff going on. Had the first show of Gun Prattle today. If you missed it, go watch it over on Gun Prattle. This is the first episode that I put on the channel. Now, I've got more that I will be uploading for Gun Prattle. And so pay attention to that channel. Now, that channel exists on... that channel exists Kronos donated $5. Walls would pay to suckle for welfare percentage at this point, but I'm a brain damaged re. Really appreciate that $5 super chat, Kronos. Here's the thing: Walls literally bowed out of the governor's race because, as we all know, he's implicated and he's probably going to get charged. If he doesn't get charged, it'll be a miracle. A miracle. But now I have to I gotta get over here to Admiral Gibbs's channel. Or his Discord channel, I should say. The fuck did I put that? It's in a very special spot. And then we gotta get over here to Gibbs me a break. And we'll see if he's gonna throw me in there back in there. Let me mute myself over there. There we go. And this is gonna be cool, guys. It's gonna be a cool week. 2 major debates. So tomorrow, I think I have a debate tomorrow night too. I thought I had one on Thursday, but yeah, maybe not. Walls dumped his hussy fussy. Motherfucker hoped he won and wouldn't be implicated for Kamala pores. Probably. So while we're at it, guys, I have to say, look, this is a public service announcement. It's very important. We may have to play it several times throughout this stream. But during this stream, you may experience feelings of stress, anxiety, anger, fear, or just being downright pissed off. You may hate some of the things I'm saying. You may want to rage at me and scream, shout, shake your fist. And when that notion strikes you, I need you to remember
Everyone does it. Now you can do it too. Shut the fuck up. Shut your mouth. Shut up. Shut the hole in your face. Like that. You can do it. Shh. Shut up. And shut the fuck up.
Just saying, it's public service announcement. I have to play that because we don't want anyone. I don't really want anyone to get all kind of pissed off and say that I didn't warn them. So everybody's doing it. You can do it too. All right. Still waiting. I'm sitting there ready to go. Nobody's there. Nobody's there. Waiting. Maybe I'm in the wrong spot. Am I in the wrong spot? All right. Well, looks like we're about to fire up here. Then I'll get everything set up so that so you guys can actually hear what's going on. That'd be great, right? That's an advantage. Liberals can't read, they won't shut up. That's true. They just read. That's true. We took Venezuela and Greenland for fuck about and find out the hell bitch is going to complain about. Well, I mean, that's true. We haven't got Greenland yet, though. We're in negotiations. Staunch negotiations. That's what we're in. We're in negotiations. Like, be cool or be gone. Simple, easy to remember. What's up, Tyler? How are you? Man, I don't know. And I'm just trying to figure out what in the hell Gibbs has got going on here, man. He said to come in here, he'd move us. He hasn't moved us. What's going on, man? What's up? What the hell? Dude, I told you to stop that nonsense. I don't drink. So what? I'm a square. I'm the coolest dude you know, bro. Yeah, I don't drink, smoke, do drugs, gamble. Why is Fabian Liberty got a picture? Why am I not? Why is what's going on here? I feel abused. Well, you're on camera and I'm apparently not. Oh, there's okay, here we go. I think I got it. Why is this all messed up? There we go. Now it's working. There we go. Nah, I guess. I don't know. There we go. All right. I was talking to my chat too. So now I gotta detach this. No, I can hear Tyler too. Yeah, I get that too. Because it's freaking Discord. Lame. All right, while I'm doing this, hang on, I gotta mute myself over here. All right, $20 comes in from Chronos 420 Grid. How's the billions to trillions since the fucking 1970s with Sally Struthers for African relief, but still a third world country? Fucking A right, doggy. Fucking A right. All right. Now you need that kitchen whiteboard. The blood just wipes right off like magic mark, like dry erase. Yeah, that's what's up. You got a house? I was like, damn, son. All right, let's make sure we can all right, let's see what we got.
Whatever, dude.
All right, so all right. I need to know, chat. Can you hear everybody, including me? Say something, Tyler.
Something Tyler.
All right, can you hear that, chat? Chat, help me out. Can we tell these motherfuckers to kick rock and fuck off? Yes, we can. Not you motherfuckers, the Democrat motherfuckers. There you go. All right. So now everybody can hear me. Everybody can see me. Now we need is the rest of the panel, and we can start baiting.
I've already started baiting.
Hey, you guys are live on my end, by the way.
Yeah, you're live here too. I'm sorry. What's up, Wick?
Fine.
just-
not much.
I
Give me
feel like-
give me a second. I'm trying to get my camera set up. One moment, please.
I mean, I can see you.
No, I mean for my peoples. Okay.
Someone
I
in
got
chat in my chat goes, now that there's a lull, who else is headed to Minnesota to get some free electronics tonight?
Oh, damn.
I was
That's
like,
Well,
we're
have you
about to
guys
pop
seen
off.
the- have you
Time to
guys seen
start
the footage?
looting.
Have you guys seen the
Looting,
footage of the
looting and scooting.
protests and stuff? There's
Yeah,
aerial
yeah.
footage. There's thousands of
I
people.
mean, I've
in the
seen
street.
some of it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what has occurred since I started streaming? I was talking about other shit, so I haven't seen any of that. But yeah,
All right, just checking chat. You guys can hear everybody. Somebody said they couldn't hear Scott earlier, but he was muted talking to his chat. So,
It's a feature, not a bug.
Wick, I didn't realize you were having a panel on it today too.
Yeah, apparently. Well, it's not my panel. It's Gibbs.
No, I thought I was talking about what you were just on. I would have got my wiggles out today, so I don't have to hold this in my brain for
Oh,
4
no.
days.
That was just an impromptu thing. I was like, I want to talk about it, so I talked about it. Now I'm
Sweet.
not. Okay.
Well,
I'll see you Monday.
I'm not on the Gibbs panel. I was just crashing, but love you, Scott and Tyler and Grid. I haven't met you on a panel yet, I don't think, but love you too.
really? Huh.
We might have been on one, but I've seen you in the Gibbs circles.
Okay.
You're good. You're good, peeps. Peace.
I mean,
Bye-bye.
people say that, but I don't know.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah.
Can Mantis praise says to tell the unreasonable man to say, fuck you. So I'm passing that on from my chat.
Oh, he said "fuck you" to me.
No, he
Mantis
wants.
praise said to say, tell him I said fuck you. So
Oh, I misheard that.
Fair enough.
I thought he was
Fair enough.
asking for you to say it.
Mantis.
Could you
Yeah, I
say
don't
it?
know who that is, but okay. All right, that's cool. Huh.
All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna go.
Oh shit! Now I got to do this all over again. I got to teach you how to use Streamlabs so you'll quit using Discord. You mean you don't want to lose this fight again? That's what. I mean, potentially, I'm not going to rule it out. I have an attitude. I have just one attitude. I feel like I've got more than one attitude. Gibbs, how the hell you been, man? You've been you just haven't really been been around. Yeah, you've been busy, man. Something. You've talked to me. Yeah, he said he'd be right back. Yeah. Well, I mean, Tyler's a centrist, right? Yeah, but you lost on those bones. You want to pick those bones again?
In terms of IQ and earnings between the first generation counterparts of any immigrant group in the country.
All right. Let's kick this out. Welcome to Give Me a Break. Guys, how y'all doing today? Hope y'all are doing well. We got one more coming. He's going to be a little late, but we're here to talk about should the Democrats be prosecuted or persecuted or whatever words you want to use for all the rampant fraud that's occurring all over the nation. Wick is waiting on his backup, so I might back him up a little bit more, be a little more lenient to him than y'all, since there's three of y'all wanted him. Let's start with Tyler here and give us a kickoff here.
Average debate enjoyer. I am back from like a 1 month hiatus. I have a cold right now. My Kuai background is so Kuai, and check me out on YouTube.
All right. Thank you so much, Fabian.
Yeah, I am Fabian Liberty. You can find me, just Google Fabian Liberty, I guess. You'll find me on YouTube and X. Do anarcho-capitalist content, libertarian objectivist content on my channel, and I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me. Thank you to everybody that showed up on time. Ali, where are you at? So I appreciate you guys, and I'm excited for tonight. Should be fun.
Being fair to Ollie, it was work. He actually has a decent excuse. He's coming. All right, Grid, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Grid One Motorsports. I'm an unreasonable man. You can find me at an unreasonable man on YouTube mostly. I also have a new channel called Gun Prattle, where we talk about, shockingly, guns all the time, 24/7, and it's really cool. So you should check that out as well. That's on Kick, Rumble, YouTube, all of it. It's on all of them. And yeah, it's gonna be a good debate tonight. I think it's gonna be fun.
All right, so it's our token lefty for today. We got Wick here to defend his Dems against the rampant fraud. What do you thought?
I'm Wick. So hi, you can find me at Wick TV on YouTube, Twitch, all that bullshit. Yeah. Are we doing opening statements, or are we just what? Are we
Yeah,
doing?
we can go backwards.
Okay,
From
I
it. Just
can.
go ahead and give us the
I
opening.
can
Yeah,
just
kick
give
us
you my
off.
opening thoughts on the subject at hand. Should Democrats be prosecuted or persecuted for all fraud everywhere? Obviously not. I think that there is obviously fraud that has been done, and the perpetrators of that fraud should be held accountable. I think that the people who have been prosecuted and convicted for fraud, crypto fraud, and all these things should not be pardoned by the Trump administration. That should not have happened, but it did. I am not here to defend Somalian fraud. Obviously, if you can prove it and there's evidence and you bring it forth to a court, that's all well and good. Have at it. But what I am here is to caution against this kind of veiled innuendo that often happens in these things, where people put out a YouTube video like Nick Shirley did that has incorrect facts, and then this prompts a lot of people to make a lot of assumptions. Look, there very well may be fraud in some of these places, but that Nick Shirley video didn't prove that. Now, again, I'm all for opening up investigations if you have solid evidence. But this idea that Democrats are the party of fraud and they're doing all the fraud everywhere and that they're all looking the other way, I just don't think that the facts support that claim. That's my position. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you so much, Grid. Go ahead. Give us your thoughts.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you know, just from my worldview, I think that it's obviously there's a due process. The due process needs to be followed. Ought we prosecute Democrats if they're responsible for this? Absolutely. Should they be held accountable? Absolutely. I guess the court of public opinion is not as relevant to me as maybe it is to some others. I just really don't care. I'm waiting to see if any charges, if charges will get filed and how far up the ladder they're going to go. We know that for this type of fraud to have occurred, it has to go pretty high. My concern is that the wagons are going to get circled and Walls will never get prosecuted. If he had supposedly he's had a part in it, anybody else that's had a part in it above just the base level of junior Democrat party guy is never going to see the inside of a courtroom. I would have the same problem if it was a Republican or anybody really. But I think the Democrats have especially finessed this system out. And what I've seen, the facts that I've been presented thus far seem to point to industrial level fraud on the American taxpayer. And yeah, absolutely, somebody should pay for that with blood, sweat, and tears. So that's all I got.
Thank you so much, Fabian.
Yeah, so I have so much I want to say on this. Let me try and condense it. So first and foremost, we're here, to talk about the Somalian fraud because it's in the court of public opinion, as you said, right? Because this Nick Shirley video went viral. But this is, obviously it was, citizen journalism, doesn't have the same connections and the same, standards as does, major media publications, which have, have been for 20 years. We've been seeing how they put out nothing but garbage and misinformation and lies constantly, right? It's so funny when someone's like, well, the New York Times, it's like, oh, okay, so you read misinformation. Cool. We're talking about this because fraud is rampant throughout the entirety of the United States. And the welfare system in and of itself is designed for fraud. That is why it is made. It is not made to help poor people, right? And we know this. And I can prove this to you unequivocally, very simply. And the way I can prove this to you is that we spend $1.4 trillion in the last year on welfare systems as a whole. And there are 19.8 million American households that are defined as poverty or poor. If we were to take that money and redistribute it with no welfare systems, no daycare clinic gets this, NGO gets this to build housing, no TANF food stamps, landlords get kickbacks, all these other programs. We get rid of all these programs. and we simply redistribute this money, every single one of those 19.8 million poor families would get $70,000 a year in a check from the government. $70,000 a year. The money's not going to poor people. They are breadcrumbs of a system that is designed to buy votes, to enrich and to enrich the wealthy elite as they use programs and philanthropy and NGOs and their preferred vendors and bureaucracy to bleed the middle class out of existence. Welfare in and of itself, these Democrats absolutely, of course, they should go to jail, right? If what we're hearing from the congressional committee hearing today, where they were threatening people that were whistleblowers, where they were telling whistleblowers that they were going to lose their job, the claim, if those claims are true, that they were asking them in interviews when they attempted to whistleblow, well, I need to know where your kids go to school, and I need to know where you drop them off and pick them up on the school bus if you want to be a whistleblower. Where we are having, all of these things shut down, where the DHS in Minnesota transferred from criminal proceedings and hearings and then changed the word fraud to overbilling to determine whether or not maybe they overbilled and we should get some of that money back instead of investigating fraud. This has been a rampant system. And the reason it's rampant and the reason we're talking about it isn't just Nick Shirley. It just, Minnesota is a special case because it's the Somalians. And because it's the Somalians, the average IQ of a Somalian is 70, right? 1 out of 6 Somalians has a functional IQ of someone with Down syndrome. They're over 87% of them are on some form of welfare. And it ties with the immigration issues that we are discussing, where people are talking about people from third world countries with horrific cultures like that in Somalia, where they're tribal. And it isn't, and this isn't a black thing, right? Somalia, because of their tribal culture, obviously Africans tend to have a lower IQ than Europeans and Asians and Jews, etc. But it is specific to Somalia because their tribal culture has created inbreeding for, over 200 years. And so they're the most ethnically and genetically homogenous country in the world, right? So there's a lot of inbreeding, and there's an incredibly low IQ, and they're really bad at the fraud. And it's because only 1 out of 40 of them has the intellect of an average American, right? The other 39 out of 40 are dumber than the average American. 1 out of 6 roughly are going to be equivalent to IQ as someone with Down syndrome. And the average person is going to be 2 standard deviations below the mean, which is, highly predictive of criminal behavior, of an inability to be a functioning member of society. Obviously there will be breakaways. Obviously some people are going to be intelligent. Obviously some people are just going to have a good heart and they're going to be hard workers despite the fact that they have a low IQ. But as a whole, as a community, they are deeply, deeply not incapable of being able to articulate their positions or engage in critical thinking. And that's why you see things like Leering Center, and that's why the fraud is so blatantly obvious and easy to discover, because they simply lack the intellect to be able to engage in fraud in a way that isn't obvious upon just an initial inspection. And so obviously there's fraud everywhere. Obviously the system is designed to enrich the wealthy elite, and there is fraud. Obviously the consequence of this is the destruction of the middle class. And I think welfare, this is a prime time to really showcase that what welfare really is. It is a eugenics program designed to decrease the fertility and birth rate of white middle class people in America, squeeze them out to where they can't afford homes, they can't afford businesses, they can't afford to compete with the wealthy elite, and to increase the breeding and the voting power and the political power of those at the very bottom of society, to create a 2-tiered system where the wealthy elite can engage in ruling over the rest of us. And it's not a feature, it's not a bug, it's a feature. And I hope people begin to realize this by seeing the absurdity and the deep levels of corruption in Minnesota fraud scandal that we have today.
I just want you all to know, before we went live, I actually started a polling bet with a few people. And,
was this like the director's extended cut version of an opening statement? What's going on?
I guess. Yeah, I guess. But that's not even the part I wanted to take a bet on. So I took a bet, And the bet was with about 10 people, and we gave odds, and I put it through my little algorithm over how long it would take before IQ came up. And my bet was at 20 minutes, and about 4 or 5 people said we wouldn't get past opening. So it looks like I lost some money. Thank you, Fabian, for bringing IQ up within 12 minutes. My money was also on grid to bring it up, so I didn't hit the parlay.
I was going to.
Damn, dude, you didn't
I was
hit the parlay.
thinking that
Yeah.
for my main argument.
Are we doing like let's get through the
Let's go to
voting, 'cause
Tyler.
I
Go
have
ahead,
a
Tyler.
lot
Go
to
ahead.
say
Yeah, go ahead,
to that-
Tyler. I know you do. Go
that,
ahead.
that
Oh,
monologue.
don't you
but
worry.
give
I'm
it-
about to get to a lot of it. So,
Yeah.
all right. So starting with social or actually, let's start with. Can we start with the Somalis first? I'm going to stand up for my Nubian brothers and sisters here,
Oh,
and
Jesus
first say that the Somalis that come to the United States do so with compassion-based immigration. If we want to, in an hour or two, get to an argument over compassion versus merit-based immigration, we can. But that's the reason we hear people generally like a small percentage of our immigration being based around compassion and not all based off of merit. Otherwise, actually would hurt merit. But the reason of these people being here go from some of the lowest IQ, lowest earners in the first generation to see the most massive jump in the second generation. They essentially become acclimated. And unlike most of the work visas we have come to the United States, they stay. They stay long term. They live here generationally, and they actually assimilate long term. Whereas, again, we bring in more workers based off of merit. Those workers take that money and they send it back home to their families where they actually want to live long term. So generally having these people here is a good. Pigeonholing 70, 80 cases of fraud to an entire population of people and using it as an excuse to attack them on completely unrelated subjects is why the accusation of racism keeps getting thrown around. We can criticize these people doing fraud. I'm going to go a different route with it. I'm going to say this is the par for the course of what we see with the Democratic Party taking funding, giving it to NGOs, and receiving kickbacks for it. They receive kickbacks in all of their campaigns. Ilhan Omar wrote the Meals Act. She introduced it herself, and that was the exact policy that was used to create this fraud, and the fraud was going on by people that were contributing to her campaign before she even wrote the act, long before they got their money. So it does show that they were in bed together. I don't think we're ever going to get that concrete link, just like the Buffalo Billion, just like other instances of fraud with, like in California, where I think like $10 billion is unaccounted for. We're not going to see arrests anywhere but like it stops at the chief of staff. You're not going to see Cuomo arrested for the Buffalo Billion. You're not going to see Newsom arrested. You don't see Chris Christie arrested when he shut down that bridge. You see his top people get arrested. So we're never going to see the heads that we want from this. But at the end of the day, the democratic abuse of NGOs is probably the biggest story here. They got kickbacks from almost all these groups, major groups, not every individual instance. But all these major groups that were doing the fraud were donating to the campaigns of the people pushing the policy, and then still to the people defending them today. YouTubers going in and doing amateur reporting probably hurt the story more than it helped it. That guy probably did more harm than good at the end of the day. The only thing I got from that video was that somebody was yelling, "It's ICE, it's ICE." Like, we can suddenly evade federal law enforcement doing their constitutionally obligated job and not open the door while we're receiving federal funds? Fuck that. You hear it's ICE, you better open that motherfucking door. You get our federal money. That's all I got.
All right, thank you so much. Yeah, and so we will talk about the Somali fraud. I'm going to turn it over to Wick because I know he's going to have umbrance with a bunch of what y'all said. However, we're going to talk about a lot of the fraud because there seems to be a lot of fraud. So let's start with the Somali fraud and we'll go from there. Go ahead, Wick. Kick us off.
So first of all, I'm not entirely. My problem with this is this seems to be a vehicle that people are using to kind of wedge in other issues there, because we're not talking about fraud specifically here. And I think that Fabian Liberty brought up a whole bunch of things where he wants to attack the welfare state as a whole through this. A lot of people, and I'm not saying anyone here is doing this, but a lot of people want to attack immigration as a whole through this. And a lot of people
They're kind
want
of inexorably
to
tied to this story, though, right?
yeah, but if I may finish, right? Like, it's being tied to the story. Like, we can look at the biggest case of fraud in America, at least in recent history, and that's the PPP loans, right? Back in 2021, we had over some reports, if you include the EIDC stuff in there, like the emergency defense thing, it gets up to 200 billion. That dwarfs the amount of fraud that we do here. But no one talks about that because they can't use it to go after their favorite bugaboo, immigrants, right? But because it is
libertarian
immigrants,
here, we
I don't
love
yeah, I don't
shitting
I
on
don't think that's the
PPP
case,
loans.
Vic.
Here's the
I
thing.
would
Here,
argue
if
with
I
you.
may,
let
if I
me finish.
may,
Let me
if I may,
finish. Let me
and
finish.
I'll
Go
let
ahead.
you guys go. I'll let you guys go. I promise, right? But my whole premise here, okay, is twofold. One, that this is being used as a vehicle to attack immigrants, and the same attention isn't being paid to the other types of fraud that are going on, right? And I think it's very telling that that's the case. And two, right, that when we have a media ecosystem that accused a Capitol police officer of being the Jan 6 pipe bomber based on a gate analysis that the Blaze TV did. And it turns out they were totally wrong. They got the wrong person. So, one, you have the whole story about Haitians in Ohio stealing pets to eat the cats and the dogs. Turned out to be totally false, pushed by JD Vance. It was wrong. When you have people who falsely accused the Palestinian student of being the Brown shooter, right? And killing those 11 or 12 students at the Brown shooting. And it turns out that that was totally wrong. At what point do we stop taking these people seriously when they continuously, every time it seems, get things wrong? When do we start saying that's all bullshit? Now, again, like I said, there very well may be fraud at these places. If you find it, prosecute it. I don't still see evidence from the Shirley.
But before Fabian gets started, I got just a couple of things. First, I don't think that the whole welfare is the issue. I don't think Fabian was saying that. I didn't get that at all from what he said. It's just this system is designed to be abused, and these people abused it, and that seems to be the fact since people are being prosecuted for that. You're welcome to say that the YouTube guy calling attention to it is wrong. That's fine. But I don't believe that you can say that if people are being prosecuted for it, that it probably didn't happen. I don't see where we get A to B. And I really got to take, I got to.
Hold on. Did I say that though? Did I say that?
You literally said welfare state is not the issue. Welfare is not the issue. And Fabian going after bringing it up is not.
Because hold on. Fabian said that it was designed to decrease the fertility rate of white people.
Agreed.
Why?
Yes.
But that has nothing to do with the money. You're picking one little piece. He said like a lot of different things. I didn't care about the white people part. I only cared about the money part that we're actually talking about.
That's what I was responding to.
Yeah. I mean, I'm focused on the topic. I don't care about any of the rest.
Hold on. Let me reframe this. I'm gonna play the Trump soothsayer because I feel like I do that a lot now because for whatever reason, maybe they're good or bad. But so I know we're gonna talk about this on Friday on Wix. Check it out; it's gonna be good. But we're going to the administration has been pushing a larger narrative, and the narrative is that it not only is it immigration, but it's kind of what Tyler was alluding to with the NGOs going out, and then it's coming back in and funding their campaign, and then they're using immigrants to have illegal voting, and they get the welfare, and they basically are shipping in voting. That's the argument that they're making. Does anybody here see evidence of that?
But I don't think that was Wick's point. I know
that's not Wick's point.
Yeah. But before we get too far into that, couple of things. What Tyler talked about. So I'm going to take a little bit of issue with the first generation Somali glow up that you're trying to push. Yeah, look, the difference between working at a car wash and working at McDonald's is not a great leap there, pal. So I mean, I just don't. You can't make that. Look, these guys aren't working on Wall Street, brother. Like you're trying to make it sound like they make this great generational leap. But again, I just don't see how you're getting there.
One people doing the fraud were doctors. This is.
I don't believe that. Yeah. I don't know. I don't believe that that's true. I think you've smoked a little too much wacky weed today. Second, I don't really care that Omar sponsored
the case of that judge threw out because it was quote circumstantial evidence, even though the state, even though that's all cases on fraud are basically circumstantial evidence. Because circumstantial evidence is everything other than direct eyewitness testimony, right? So financial records are circumstantial evidence. That case that kind of went viral because the judge threw it out. The individual in that case that defrauded the Medicare system was a doctor, right? So many of the people that were involved in the Medicare fraud are doctors, right? There are plenty of doctors that are committing the fraud as well.
Yeah, I was just pointing out that Tyler was trying to put this great spin on it that these Somalis come over and then the first generation, the next thing you know, they're airline pilots for Delta or something. And I just don't buy that at all. The Ilhar Omar bill, I don't really care about. I understand that was fraud, but but what I did care about, what I did find really interesting was the low level arrest. Yes, you're right. You're 100% right, and that echoes kind of what I said about where we know that there's obviously fraud, right? I mean, the money's gone. They don't know where it went. So there's obviously fraud. You're correct, I believe, that nobody above a certain level is going to get touched. That's how our politics in this country operate. But it kind of plays to the prompt of, ought they not be prosecuted? Should there be a political
Can I
force
just
field
ask
around these
directly?
people?
Sure, can I just
Because
ask
I
Go
just
ahead,
don't
Rick.
what
see
your
that.
evidence is that Ilhan Omar, Tim Walz, or any of the big people that you want prosecuted? What's your evidence that they were
I didn't say who I wanted
either
prosecuted.
We're not gonna
engaged in
find it.
fraud? Can I finish my question? Either engaged in fraud or that they knew about the fraud and did nothing? Because I have evidence, right, that Tim Walz specifically put forth what was it? Quite a bit of money in 2019 in order to add funding for new investigators, data analytics,
5
fraud
million or
tracking at
something? Yeah.
DHS, tighten oversight at CCAP, right? Like they took steps, and you can argue that they weren't enough, but they took steps to combat these frauds. And I do also want to point out that the arrests made and most of the convictions, 90% of the convictions that happened, were Democrats prosecuting and convicting these people.
I don't know who
A lot
that's
of this needs
directed
to come
at.
in the Biden
That's
administration.
directed at you. You keep saying there's obviously fraud that the Democrats are doing.
Well, sure.
Okay.
So you
Well, yeah,
literally just said that there are people that were prosecuted for it. Who were those?
Ilhan
Were those
Omar,
people Democrat or Republican that were
So do you
prosecuted?
think that Ilhan Omar is engaged in fraud?
I didn't make that claim. He made that claim, and I said I didn't care about it.
Okay.
I
well,
didn't
whoever's-
make that claim specifically. I mean, she
No,
has
not
since 2019
not Scott.
increased her net worth
Tyler
by
did, right?
66,676%, and her husband has beaten Warren Buffett on the stock market every year since then, which is, interesting, right? But I mean, like not atypical of politicians to be engaged in corruption and fraud. They're all corrupt, right? Like if you're voting for a politician, it's a corrupt piece of shit thief that should
can I
probably
just
be
ask
killed
directly then,
and
just so we
drawn
can
and
get a-
quartered publicly
just
for the crimes that they've committed against the American people.
Just so I'm aware of your all's takes here, I'll just ask directly: who here thinks that Tim Walz or Ilhan Omar or any of the ones senators, House Republican, not Republicans, House representatives, have engaged in fraud here? Who thinks that?
Just like speculates
engaged in
it, or
fraud?
No, who has evidence for that?
Oh, we're not going to get.
I mean, if I had evidence,
Okay,
I'd have already
so
turned
no
it in,
evidence.
right?
Okay,
Like
I
I
mean,
was
so
already.
the Senate,
There's no
the
investigation
congressional,
yet.
the
I'll
congressional
just
committee.
speak to you that some of the Democrats at the state level obviously did.
Did anybody listen to the
fraud.
congressional
Yes.
committee today, other than me?
I looked at the highlights. I
I
was
watching
unfortunately
Okay.
was busy all day.
All right,
We
so if
just
you watch,
started an
it's
investigation.
fine.
Oh,
Right. If you watched it at all today, right, then obviously there's no smoking gun of like Tim Walz or any of these people signing a document saying that like there is no smoking gun as of right now. And I highly doubt that they'll find one, even if they did a genuine, thorough investigation. What we do know, right, is that Tim Walz put money forward to it was $5 million to have additional investigations into fraud. We know that. We know that he took some level of action. We also know that the lieutenant governor, and a lot of these people were getting a lot of check blue money from the very organizations that were some of which are accused, some of which were prosecuted for fraud. We know that the administration in their process and the Waltz administration changed with that $5 million. They changed the DHS in Minnesota from specifically targeting and trying to investigate fraud to overbilling, and created committees to try and recoup money to some degree. And so while they put in more money for investigation, they moved away very much from criminal investigations into going through documents and being like, hey, can we recoup some of this money? Is that tacit support or not? It's like a lot more investigation is going to have to go through to what level to what level they were complicit in specific stealing, fraud, right? That is not necessarily my overarching argument. I agree with you, your characterizations, Wick, of my argument. I don't need to be defended against those characterizations because they're not mischaracterizations. I agree that people are tying this to immigration and to Somalians specifically. I agree that people are tying this to welfare. I think that is good, and I think that they are inexorably linked. And I think it is a very I think it is a debate bro tactic to try and isolate what is happening and what is occurring from the overarching problems of the welfare state and from immigration policy to try and say, no, we just need to focus specifically on the is this one daycare center, do we have the evidence to prove that this is fraud or not fraud, when we do have a ballooning welfare state that is putting the middle class into inexorable amounts of debt and destroying this country.
Just real quick,
before you, go ahead, Wick. After Wick goes, I'm going to get Ollie in here to give an intro. Quick. Go ahead.
When you say the welfare state, are you including Medicare, Medicaid, stuff like that?
I'm including all of it, right? So I would include farming subsidies. I would include. I would include all of that. Social Security. Right?
Yeah. So almost all of that 1.4 trillion you mentioned that going toward the quote unquote welfare state goes to old people, right? It a vast majority goes to caring for old people specifically. So if we want to look at the problem with this, right, it isn't daycare centers or welfare as a whole to working class individuals, right? It's
I disagree with that.
The vast majority of it goes towards old people and the healthcare for old people.
I disagree with that characterization. When you have, according to the committee today, we have well, you said right that that you wanted me to agree to you saying that the issue is old people and not fraud or welfare system in general. That is you're correct that the boomers are the major recipients of the welfare state. That doesn't magically mean that fraud in Minnesota at the conservative estimate of $9 billion, which is more than we've sent to Israel in aid since the beginning of October 7th, is somehow not an issue, right? Both are an issue. The redistribution towards poor boomers, right? I don't care. I made the assertion. I know it's not a trick. There's
a trick because you say we can't focus on one thing, and then I try to make a more holistic argument, and you're like, well, we have to see he's dodging from focusing on this one thing. What are you doing?
That's not a trick. That's not a trick. You're trying to use what I attacked you on and reverse Uno it, but you're failing because it's just not true. What I'm saying is the meta argument is very simple. $1.4 trillion being spent. If that money was simply redistributed to the poor, that would be $70,000 for every household in America that is defined as poor. If you're not poor, you don't need government assistance, whether or not you're fucking young or old.
We're going to come back to that in a second because I actually have something I want to bring up in a moment about that. But let's get Ollie in here, and then you can go ahead and give us an intro and your thoughts on if we should prosecute Democrats for widespread fraud.
Yeah, man, the first thing I want to say is fuck everyone for making me watch that Nick Shirley video. Jesus, that kid is the most annoying, insufferable kid. And but okay, your question. When you say Dems, I don't know what you like Democrats in Minnesota. Do you mean like Tim Walz? What do you mean by Dems? Because no, I've seen people run scams in all red states, blue states. It doesn't necessarily matter.
Well, if you want me to answer that, I'll answer that and I'll let you go back. But so I guess where I'm coming from is when I try to do the shows, I try to bring what I hear from my normies friends, right? This is what they're saying. And I try to bring it here, and I like to have our internet brain boys come and argue about whatever the normies think is happening, right? And the conspiracy theory that I'm hearing, whether or not it's conspiracy theory or not, is it's pretty widespread. But the idea is they're bringing people here, they're spending our tax dollars on them, they're using it to get people elected, and then it goes all the way to the top. In fact, we can look, Walz was behind all this, and look, he was the VP candidate. So the whole Democratic Party's evil, and we need to, tear them down brick by brick. That is an argument that I'm seeing.
Everything you just said doesn't require fraud, by the way.
Sure, but I understand that. I understand that. Right. Their argument is that the fraud.
I'm just pointing out all of the things that you stated. Importing people from other countries, giving them resources, saying that we're the ones that were going to help you, giving them a bunch of aid. None of that requires any fraud whatsoever. For that conspiracy to be true. What you just described is factually true without any fraud.
Well, okay, well then let me give you some of the more fringe parts of the conspiracy. Oh, Melissa Hortman, well she knew she was killed by someone with Walls connections, right? He knew it was murder, it was assassin, right? Like there's like it goes pretty widespread.
No one here is
down
saying
to
that.
QAnon.
sure.
There,
No one's
right?
no one's
For
saying that.
sure.
I'm not.
No one's
I'm
making
not
that
saying that
claim.
either. I'm just bringing this up because I feel like it's a topic that's not being discussed in the way I think it should be, which is that it's like an internet, like a nasty onion.
Yeah, I'm not
and
trying to
they're
be
all
a
in
dick.
cahoots.
It was just
But yeah,
really
let me
important that I pointed out that
I'll
that
be
let
conspiracy
Ollie
is
finish.
is
Let
true
Ollie
and
finish.
doesn't
Let Ollie
require
finish,
fraud.
and we'll open it back up again. Go ahead, Ollie.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess like, yeah, I hear all that. That argument never makes sense to me. The idea that like Democrat politicians are immigrating people in to win votes, and then like it's to their own detriment, right? If this is at the end of the day racism, it's to their own detriment. Their white people are losing out, right? And they're hearing you because Gavin Newsom is he's cozying up to the Groypers. You know, he's posting his old school badass basketball photos. He has his white family on. He's mogging on JD Vance. So we got all that going on. All I'm saying is for this, I haven't seen anyone necessarily defend this, right? Everyone I've seen who's watched this video, all the Democrats I've seen have been like, if there's fraud, prosecute, get it the fuck out of here. So like when you say like, should Dems be held liable? The only way I see them held liable is potentially it's easier to scam in a democratic state because they have better social social nets and social policies. So it's easier. Maybe if you want to go towards negligence, if you want to go towards something like that, I can agree with there on like negligence potentially, right? But the biggest concern I've heard is that people were concerned. The Democrats were covering this up for concerns of racism, right? Because they were concerned that people would call them racist. But then in the video and even in the reviews I've seen, Democrats did try to they reviewed a few people of these licenses. They took some of these licenses down. I mean, they were shutting these people down for certain failures. A couple of them were like failures to some of the kids weren't vaccinated. Some of the workers weren't vaccinated, right? Like all these things. So like they were, in there and investigating and doing all that. So
But
maybe negligence.
You laid out the trick. You laid out the trick that Democrats are doing, right? What they're doing is they're saying, of course, fraud is bad. Of course.
Yeah.
Hold on. No, right?
Yeah.
You laid out the trick. They go, of course,
Okay.
fraud is bad. Of course, these things.
Fair.
And then when people are like, well, then we need to shut this shit down and fix it. They go, but Trump shutting down the money in the stem of the flow that is rampant with fraud is making children starve, and it's evil. And yeah,
so I
of
don't
course
think
they'll
you're
tell you to your
allowed to-
face
I
that we
don't
should
think it's-
prosecute
I don't
the
think it's
fraud.
smart. I don't think
But they're
it's smart.
supporting the system that incentivizes massive
Yeah, it's not
amounts of
smart to
fraud.
just shut down all of the fucking system overnight, right? Just because you
It
find out
is.
for fraud.
That is the
Mind
right
you,
thing to do.
Mind you,
hold on.
this isn't
YouTube
even
video.
fraud.
Well, hold on.
The
Let me-
Nick Shirley video isn't
Hold on.
new.
Hold on.
The Nick Shirley video isn't new. In 2000, I think a few years ago, they were doing reviews on this. CNN was doing reviews on this. Like, this isn't new, right? Like, I'm not saying that it's good or that we should let it go, but you can't just shut shit down overnight because of a YouTube
Fraud
video.
has always existed. What's
Hold on.
new is the ever increasing amounts of fraud and the ever increasing amounts of this community having the balls of Democrat politicians tightly grasped to the point that they're doing mea culpas about the
I don't even
racism
think
of
it's
Trump
Democrat
and
politics.
talking about like, I grew up Jewish, so I know what it's like to be bullied in the neighborhood,
think
and they're
it's the
sitting there
politicians, or do
laughing
you
in their
think-
fucking face, going,
Yes, I think it's politicians.
as they're stealing
No,
money
wait.
from
Do you
them,
think it's
wearing
politicians or-
$2,000
I
glasses,
do think it's
making up shit
politicians.
about their daycare
Hold
center
on,
getting
let me
broken
give you my
into.
thoughts.
Let's go to Grid. Grid, go ahead.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah,
you
so
can-
I-
Wait, Grid,
Ollie,
real quick.
Okay,
Let me
go
just
ahead.
give you a bounce off real quick. You'll play off of it. So like it's either politicians, which I don't think it's like Tim Walz approving this. Rather, I think it's people within the community who maybe got like work within like a local, not necessarily government, but those like assistants. These are people who probably went to school. They know how to work the program, so they're doing the cover ups. I think it's an inter-community thing, right? I don't necessarily think it's politicians that are doing it.
Nah, they're too
Right.
stupid
Okay.
to pull it off to this degree.
That's a great point, but I'm gonna put this to Wick and Fabian because these guys are each going to have a different opinion on this. And I think I know which way it's going to go. So if it's the case, Wick, that Walz did all of these, which I believe it is, that he'd put all of these task force in place, he tried to get the enforcement up, he did all of those things. If that's the case, why is it that the only actual investigations and prosecutions have come from the national government and not the state government?
Well, I think
because they're federal loans that the people have, right? That a lot of some federal money.
But the state can prosecute for fraud in their state.
And to be clear, a lot of them kicked it up to the FBI when they realized that the scope was probably beyond their resources, right? We would just cede to me, right, that the federal government has more
I
resources
think you
at
could
their hand
assume that
than
happened. I don't
Minnesota.
think there's any
Correct?
evidence
Is
that
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 true?
happened.
There is for the major case, the autism case. There's documented evidence that Keith Ellison and the state government worked with the federal government for that like big one. I think it was
Yeah,
like
I mean, and
hundreds of millions.
and I
Okay, so
can't give you
one out of
every
like
single case
1,000.
of fraud that happened and whether or not and how the state government worked with the federal government. There's just it's beyond the scope of what my answer can be to you. However, I can say that in the instances, if you find instances where state government actively obstructed the federal government's investigation of these things, I'm for prosecuting that or holding them accountable. But what
Okay,
I haven't seen is evidence that that's the case, and that's what
Would
I'm asking you. Do you have
would
evidence that
would
the
okay,
state someone at the
hold,
state level
hold on.
obstructed the federal government's
what
investigation?
In March of
would count?
2025, a federal judge found Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, was not telling the truth. That means he was lying about stopping payments on these nonprofits. That he said that he did, but he in fact did not. And a federal judge found that to be true. And there were claims of racism that were made, and the case was thrown out. Now, whether or not you agree with that, that is the facts, right? I don't give a shit whether you agree with it. That's the facts. It happened. And this again, you can't. I'm just asking if you want to say that the Democrats at the state level or even the federal level they want the same things the Republicans want, and they're trying to do a good job. You cannot prove it, or you've not been able to prove it. I don't have to prove that anybody that commits fraud should be charged with fraud. I don't care what party they are. But what we have is a proven arc of Democrats in positions to regulate these programs, repeatedly either failing to do their job, which, okay, fire them or maybe put them in jail if it's criminally negligent, or in the damn programs, that's best option, or admit that Democrats cover for each other and they're just not going to go to fucking jail.
Well, you said that he was found the facts of a case that got thrown out.
Yes, he was found. A federal judge found he was not telling the truth.
Do you mean
That's
that the
lying.
case was found in favor of Tim Walz?
It was not found in favor of Tim Walz. A federal judge found that Tim Walz was not telling the truth about stopping payments to these nonprofits that were defrauding the government. In fact,
why was the case thrown out that you're referring to?
Because there were claims of racism made, and the case was thrown out.
Let me ask.
Hold on. So
just
to be clear, because someone said that the case was racist, the case got thrown out?
No, they filed. I know what he's talking about. They filed a racial suit against the state for persecution against the Somali community, and it held up the investigation on the state level that was being done.
So was the case thrown out?
I think that it didn't get settled in time, and the federal government stepped in and took over. I don't think we saw a conclusion to it.
Well, the federal judge was already in control of it.
Halted at best. I think halted.
Let me just pause this because I think we're going down a little bit of a rabbit hole. Like, what is the like? And this is the same question I know I've got asked for like the Trump stuff when he got convicted and all these stuff, and I said it was a witch hunt and whatever. Like, I guess we're at a point now. It seems like, what is the standard that y'all are going to accept as like, what did you say, interfering with the case? Would it be like, oh, someone is going to go give testimony about fraud happening and they get fired the day before they're supposed to give? Or would it be like, oh, they're doing this like race case where they're using lawfare? What is like the standard for interference? Let's go to the left answer.
Yeah. That's easy to answer though for you. Like, it's like any email that says like giving them some sort of tips on order to how to get away with what they're doing. Oh. Any coordination saying, hey, we're going to give you this money, make sure you donate back to us.
Any tangible involvement between one and the other. It's going to be any involvement, really. If I don't know any of the other people in politics, but if Tim Walz was talking to any of the daycares, right? If there's any email between like any of the politicians.
Do we have any
There's enough
evidence that any
smoke.
of that
There's
happened?
more than enough smoke to merit the investigation.
Well, wait,
that
wait,
just
wait.
started.
So like, okay. As far as I know, growing up in Dearborn, large Lebanese community, we had this thing called access, right? It was people who didn't necessarily work in the government, but they would help. They knew enough English and they were here long enough. Maybe they were second generation, third generation people, and they would help like non-English speaking people like fill out forms for businesses, fill out forms for so on and so forth.
Sure.
Like, why does it
And
have
to
to be
vote.
that the
Don't
well,
forget
and to
voting.
vote
In
how to
Minnesota,
vote,
you
whatever,
can
where to
vouch
vote,
for
so on
someone,
and so forth.
even if they don't have an ID or any proof of residence. Up to 7
Well, if this whistleblower
Yeah, I don't know.
accusation,
But I'm saying like there are probably
verified.
it's probably more likely that there are these resources in like Minneapolis, right, where there is like a center for like Somali people that can go to help them file these papers. It's more likely that that group would be like involved in the fraud than people that are like finagling. Because with a lot of these daycares, it was they said in the video it would say like 2 daycares were run out of the same place, but really it showed like there was a daycare in 2022 and 2023, and then it changed names, or it seemed to have changed names in 2024 and 2025. So it just seems like
Well, I mean, several of them were shut down, right? They came
some
in,
of them
they
were shut down, and then they reopened under a different name. Yeah.
Yeah, they would get investigated for committing fraud.
Yeah.
And then they would shut down.
Yes.
They would wait a month or two. They'd reopen.
Different name,
same owner, I assume, or
100%.
maybe change, maybe the wife instead of the
Yeah, we
husband.
see corporations do this all the time.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. This isn't. I mean, that's what's called fraud.
100%.
And
I know. I'm not saying there
Okay,
isn't
so-
fraud happening. I'm saying I don't think it's the politicians enabling the fraud. That's kind of
Okay,
what I'm
so-
saying.
But the
So I was
politicians have to enable it because they're the ones that sign off on it. They're the ones that put
Well,
these
Tyler,
programs in.
They could be getting
Hold on.
frauded. They're getting scammed as well.
Tyler, go ahead.
The question at the end of the day, whistleblowers can be verified in any way. That's enough proof to prove they were culpable. But I kind of want to go like back to what Wick was saying earlier with the old people being the majority of spending with the programs. The boomers are getting there now. Scott wants to get rid of the state, but democracy is very in favor of these social programs, especially Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and things like that. So we need to grow
It's not
the
an
state.
argument against my claim to just say
It's not, but it's
then
what they
attack me
want.
for being an ANCAP, right? Yeah, but you're not
That's
actually
what
attacking.
people want. We have
No,
to
no,
be practical.
okay, yeah,
I'm
I
not
don't give a.
attacking, I'm
I
just
don't.
saying we
No,
have
no,
to
no.
be
What you were
practical.
doing, what you are doing is you are using that as a vector to attack my ideology instead of the claim that I am making. And the claim that I am making is that $1.4 trillion sent on welfare is redistributed to the poor, whether they are elderly or not,
I get that.
would result in $70,000 a year in
Sure.
funds to those
I
people.
understand that,
And
but
if
the
you're
point is,
and so if you're
maybe I'm
making
mistaken.
70 plus 30, you ought to be able to afford your fucking
Hold
medical
on.
expenses.
But maybe I'm mistaken. We aren't here to argue the welfare state. We're here to argue fraud.
yeah,
I am
that's
110% here to argue
they're
that this is with inexorably linked, and that this is a feature, not a bug. That what is occurring in Minnesota is occurring throughout the entire country, and that what we're and that the welfare system is a system that is designed to strangle the middle class, and in part, in my opening statement, as I stated, is a eugenics program to ensure that high IQ, productive, conscientious people that are predominantly going to be white people here in America, if we were in fucking China, it would probably predominantly be Chinese people, to keep them from creating businesses, owning homes, having large families, and to create a two-tiered system of imported, low IQ, poor people that are constantly fighting for breadcrumbs from the government while the wealthy elite and corporations steal all our fucking
This
money.
is what I'm trying to
I am here to argue
Just
that.
Let me finish the sentence.
I have
Trying to get
evidence of
into this.
every one of
Hold
those
on.
fucking claims.
Hold on, I'm trying to get into this because your framing is a little wild. But again, most people want these social programs, so we have to think of a practical way to do this. I'm trying to explain why we need compassion-based immigration.
Yeah, redistribute the money.
Hold on. If
Just
we
redistribute the money. Are you
doesn't work.
poor?
People don't want money handed to them. We're giving money away to give the government to get the government to do things for them. Here, take our money.
You sure
and
about
build
that?
roads. Yes.
You sure
Yes.
that if I go to a random poor person out on the street and say, would you rather have all of the government programs that you have right now, or would you rather get $70,000 a year in a paycheck?
No, I'm
from
not
the
sure if you
government?
go to a single anecdotal person and ask them, but if you go to the
I didn't say
majority
anecdotal.
of the
Let's do
country-
let's do a
Hold on,
let's
hold
do
on,
a
the
let me-
poll.
majority of the
let me-
country,
doing
yes,
UBI
these
now?
Let me
programs
just
are very
hold on.
popular.
Let me just reframe this a little bit. Really, like two Fabians put on 70K. We don't have to use that example, right? I think another example that's in the news right now, we have the alleged fraud in California that's up potentially 250
Ohio
billion.
too, yeah.
Yeah. But well, I only did the math on one of them. So, $250 billion allegedly spent
Money.
in California, right? So I did the math, right? That's about $750 per person could have gone in your pocket, like, right? And so
So
now
much
we
pussy
don't have the proof yet that it's happened. There's no proof, but in my mind, to your point, like, what's better? Is it you have the check or
Well,
you
like,
don't have?
yeah, let me
I think
explain.
that's the
Let me
argument
explain
he's
something.
making.
Let me
You
just
don't
give
agree
you
with
an
that?
example.
I agree. That's the argument.
They had a California, Los Angeles, sorry, San Francisco. I apologize. San Francisco had a housing program, right? And there was a wonderful kind of like I forget the guy's name. He's a YouTuber turned real estate mogul that like does like financial things, and like his big claim to fame is that like he doesn't raise rents on people because he makes more money by not raising rents. Because if you have a good tenant, why raise their rent and gamble with like them leaving and then getting a new tenant that might be super shitty? That it's just more profitable for him to keep the rent the same and not raise rents. So he saw this program that San Francisco put forward. And what the program was is it was supposed to turn units or buildings that weren't necessarily single family housing, or they were really big houses, into duplexes. And this is an expedited process. And what ended up happening is he spent a bunch of money to turn it into an apartment building, or like an apartment, or a little small house for someone, right? He went through the inspection. There was a $15 item. The inspector didn't want to wait, so he had to get a new inspection. Upon the new inspection, they said that, oh, actually, you need to pay one of our approved lenders to use a camera and go through your sewage line to make sure that everything's good. So then he had to wait a couple weeks. He paid for that. Then they said, oh, there's a crack at the sewer line where it meets with the city at the road. That's going to cost you $22,000, and you need to get an approval from the city. By the way, the law requires that you give 60 days notice to the supposed moving in tenants that there's going to be things that are going to get done. So he fights through that. He gets in another inspection. Once he gets another inspection, they say the sidewalk has tree roots, and those tree roots are damaging the sidewalk that the city owns. So you need to pay that. By the way, there's a 60-day approval process. And what ended up happening is he lost almost $100,000, and he had to pay government approved lenders, companies that work with the government, that have special access to the government, as he was bled and dried of almost 6 figures and no rent. And this is an expedited program. This is how welfare actually works, is that it is designed to enrich people's political donors, designed to enrich designed to enrich the wealthy, so that we can create bullshit affordability programs that don't help the poor. And that's why we're spending $1.4 trillion, and poor people are still fucking poor. This is a feature. It is meant to create fraud.
Go ahead, Wayne.
No, if he's going to tell a story, I'm going to tell a story. When I was out of work, right? If we're going to do anecdote here, right? When I was out of work before I joined the military, right? There was a period of time I'd gotten fired, laid off from my job, not fired, right? And I was out of work for a little bit. Thank God that they had unemployment for me in the state that I was in, so I could pay a little bit of my bills and get through that time and get back on my feet. The idea
Who pays
that
for
it
that
was
unemployment, by the way?
specifically designed to destroy white people.
He paid for it.
Who
pays for that, by the way?
Right, is
who pays for it?
insanity. It is not
Who pays for that?
fact in fact.
Who pays for that government program?
Hold on, let me finish.
Welfare actually
Who pays for that
helping
program?
people get through. I am an example of welfare.
Who pays for that
helping
program?
Someone
Let him finish.
get on their feet. Right, but we're not.
Who pays
here
for unemployment?
to talk about the welfare state. We're here to talk about.
I'm here to talk about the welfare state.
Democrats
Who pays for it?
are to blame for fraud, and specifically
who pays for it?
through the lens
Who
of
pays for it?
Minnesota.
So
Who pays unemployment? Who pays unemployment?
The
Man, it
voter.
doesn't matter. I
No.
thought it was there.
Well,
No,
so
the business pays unemployment insurance. That is money that is taken out of your paycheck every single time that you get a paycheck, because you cost payroll taxes, unemployment insurance, and a whole bunch of other taxes in order to hire you. You could have been making $6, $7, $8 more an hour that entire time and actually saved money, gotten into a better position, and been better off in your life.
Well,
The
I'm
employer
glad
is
that it
paying
wasn't
for that.
case.
hold on. Let
I
me
would've sent
let me
it, and I'm
let me move
glad
it.
that the state held that money back, and I voted for those
So you're
benefits.
saying you're retarded with your money?
Governed is important.
You're saying you
And I
couldn't have
consented
used
to
that money
government
more effectively?
Most people are retarded with their money. Yes.
Hold on. So here's the okay. I get that there is the greater conversation. Actually, I think Wick actually said this in the opening about like wanting to be attached to more things. But I think that there's more direct link for like what these conspiracy people are saying, right? I'm gonna post a couple links right here in the group chat. This is gonna be one of them. So Minnesota is also under fire for their voucher voting system, right? And they're
I brought
also
that up. Yeah.
yeah, I believe he did. And they also are under fire because Trump, like I guess, lost Minnesota by 139,000, and now according to public records and some election official, allegedly there's 193,000 duplicate votes, and so now they're opening up an investigation into voting. And I actually looked, and apparently this has been an ongoing issue. There's a claim that in 2022, 583 votes were the deciding factor in a local election, and they
Like I
ended up
said, you don't
doing-
need fraud.
Yeah,
You just need the government
but-
programs that the Democrats created to fuck
hold on,
over the middle class.
the point that I'm making, and I guess I'm making for the people that aren't here, and I guess that I wanted really to talk about with this panel, is there seems to be some kind of connection between the money going out to the NGOs and then coming back to the Dems, and then potential voting fraud and like why these people coming. Do you, Ali, do you or Wick see this as a potential thing? Because I know like Fabi wants to talk about the welfare, and that is appealing to me, but. Like, if we're not going to talk about the welfare, do y'all see like this grand conspiracy? Do y'all see the potential that this is happening?
Well, can I just ask you, like,
Sure.
how much kickbacks did the Dems get in your mind, like monetarily, from all these fraudulent organizations? And who got those kickbacks? How much were they? Can you show me the numbers on these?
Yeah, I can find a
Please.
click, but yeah, it's thousands.
A lot of it was
I think
brought
it's
up in
more-
the congressional
yeah.
committee. A lot of these people got hundreds of thousands of dollars from the same people. Specifically the oh God, what was it? The
Is it PAC money?
no, not it. It was the fuck. What is it called?
Yeah, to be clear, what I'm asking
Feeding
for-
Our Future.
Yeah, I got you.
Right, the
I got
Feeding
you.
Our Future that got
He
prosecuted.
wants to know
for the
which Democrat is
$250
benefiting
million
from
dollars
the,
that
from
they
the
did in
scam.
fraud.
To be clear, the
and
Democrats
local politicians got
prosecuted
over
them.
$100,000.
35 million
Democrats
is from the daycares. Is the one. Yeah, I have
were the ones who brought this to the federal attention, and the Democrats were the ones that prosecuted them. So if the Democrats are getting kickbacks from them, it obviously didn't stop them from stopping the Feed Our Futures fraud.
You do realize that Democrats aren't one person, right? That there's multiple people. There's going to be some
Neat.
Democrats that give a fuck
Interesting.
and care about
So
fraud
maybe
and want to
we should
investigate things.
only
And then
go
there's going to
after
be
the
other
who are
Democrats.
engaged in fraud and not try to.
Do you
paint
think you made
the
a bright
broad
point
brush of
here?
the Democratic
Literally
Party?
no one-
Thanks for making my point, you fucking retard.
I
Jesus
think you might be the
Christ.
retard here.
Talk about
No one
Somalian
here
level
is
IQ.
arguing.
Here we have a good example of it.
It's
I'm
literally
way
the,
smarter
it's,
than you, Wick. Come on.
Not
be
in
real.
any world,
it is
in
the
any
prompt,
shape,
right?
way,
The
or
prompt
form.
is
You've
should
never
Dems be-
demonstrated that.
Brother,
You've
you are
never
brother.
shown
You
that.
are the
You've
midwit
lost
of
every
midwits.
single
All right, listen,
argument we've
so
ever
hold on.
had.
All right,
You haven't
I don't-
lost every single argument.
so
in
guys,
fact,
all
you're
right, moving on.
reaffirming
So,
that
all right.
Somalians have low IQ.
All right, let's
You're
go to-
fucking
let me-
conceding the
let me
point
go to-
that they're
I'm
fucking
looking at
functionally
both of them.
retarded.
let me go to Ollie. I don't care so much about the who's with Todd combo. Listen, we're all with Todd. Anyway, here you go, Ollie. Go ahead.
I think the most likely is that it leans towards like for votes, right? You bring you have the NGOs that go and they find these people and they bring them in, and to Fabian's point, American elite want a immigrant poor class to control in America, which to an extent doesn't that just
That's
make
just
the
adding
white
to it.
people-
That's not my point. Just be
Yeah.
very clear.
Oh,
Like
okay.
they want a poor class that loves.
But it helps that
social
a lot of them are
programs.
immigrants.
Well, I mean,
Can I
if
say
you're
something?
trying, like, it doesn't. It's not like there's like some fucking dude with like a big Jewish nose rubbing his hands together, creating this whole thing. It's a matter
Wait,
of.
I've seen
Well, no,
that
that's
meme,
what
right?
that's what Gibbs
If
that's
you-
what Gibbs'
Yeah.
friends
Right,
are
like,
saying.
It's like if you are a Democrat, right? You are a socialist, right? Like there's no such thing as a Democrat that isn't a socialist, obviously.
Well, Republicans
so when
are
you are a
socialists too in
socialist
your
Democrat,
eyes.
most Republicans would be socialist, correct?
That's
The
just, as long
overwhelming
as we
majority.
have that caveat.
Right. They
Yeah.
love so you are vote you
These
are a
Trumps
part
are
a
bullshit.
representative of the party that wants more social programs, that wants more NGOs involved,
Yes.
right? That wants a
Yes.
bigger government to help the poor, etc. It is in your best interest to do two things: to enrich yourself and create connections with the wealthy elite so that you can have
Yeah.
more power and more money. And it is also within your interest to do whatever it takes to have a large base voter class that is interested in social programs. And so if that means giving it to immigrants, and that means there's more people that can in a few years vote for you, that's the incentive, right? It's not like they're like, how can we absolutely get the Somalians here? It's like, how can we get low IQ, poor people to want more and more social programs that end up having big kickbacks to all my NGO, wealthy people
Abe
that run
Lincoln
these
wants
programs.
the slaves freed for the vote. I get the
Getting
point.
1% of the vote, libertarian take up 60% of the talking time. So to go back to what Gibbs is actually talking about here, these donations.
Sorry, I'm in teacher mode. I'm just trying to educate you guys so you can understand what's going on.
Nobody's going to vote for it either way. We want our social program. But anyways, going back to these kickbacks here, like, I don't see donations as proof of guilt. You're going to have to show me there was some clandestine meeting to say that this is something that was worked out. Because these groups, if the fraud was unknown by the politicians, of course they're going to donate to the politicians that are saying they're going to continue to fund
No
them.
one working there was thinks that the fraud was unknown. Like everyone knows that fraud is rampant in this system.
We
It's
just
literally,
don't
and
know.
we
that
know that.
Omar
We all know
and-
that. You know that. You're lying right now.
I'm not lying. We don't know it.
You know that
Yeah,
everyone
yeah.
that has been. You know that
I
everyone that has been
speculated.
that has
Greg, you're looking
that has
great, by the way.
that had power to and had authority and was supposed to be in charge in some capacity of tracking this shit knows that. By the way, knows that these places were also involved in PPP fraud loans.
That's
right. Like there's
speculation.
several
Everyone
daycare
was
centers that were
involved in
taking
PPP
PPP loans.
fraud.
We're speculating.
Right. Well,
I
we
agree
brought it
with
up,
you.
but it ties to this as well,
We
right?
just
Like
don't
we
have
all
that
know.
proof yet. We don't have that
We
proof
don't
yet.
have we don't have proof that a specific daycare place is engaged in the certain amount of fraud, right? Like we look at the Quality Learning Center and we know that they got investigated and then got their license back like 20 times. You can go just look on the Minnesota website. And we know that legally, they are not legally allowed to operate a daycare center after 6 p.m. because their license is for normal waking hours. They are a daycare, not in afternoon care program. Their license doesn't allow them to be open from 2 to 10
That's
p.m.
inaccurate.
But
You're misrepresenting it. These are
I'm not misrepresenting.
These
Do
are
you have proof of
example
that?
hours. They aren't firm, hard, fast requirements.
There is a specific licensing for afternoon care programs. They're not licensed for that. They're licensed for
Ilhan
quote-unquote
Omar.
normal waking hours, which is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So we
Ilhan
know that they're
Omar-
like
Those
that
are
their
the
paperwork.
examples they give
That doesn't
of
mean
normal waking
that doesn't
hours,
mean
to be clear.
that doesn't okay, yeah, but 2 to 10 p.m. is not that when there is a license for that, which is afternoon care. That being said, that doesn't prove that they're fraudulent. It just proves that like maybe if the most charitable interpretation is that they're like retarded to the point where they can't
Incompetent.
get a sign that says Quality Learning Center,
Hold
and
on,
so their
no,
like
no.
paperwork's all fucked up.
What we know is Ilhan Omar wrote the Meals Act, and Ilhan Omar wasn't born here. She's not one of those intelligent Somalis in the first generation. You know what I'm talking about? She's one of those inbreds with that fucking 60 IQ
Oh,
or whatever you guys are talking.
I want to like come back to this.
Probably
voting.
smarter than the
I want to
typical
come back to this
Somali, right?
this cash that's being flowing out of the
Because
daycare
her
centers.
family were
Hold on,
wealthy
hold on.
elite in
We'll come-
Somalia
listen, we'll
that
come back
committed
to-
genocide against their own people.
Okay, we'll come
Right?
back
So
to
she's
Ilhan.
probably higher IQ than
Hold
the
on,
typical
hold on,
Somali.
hold on, hold on. We're going to talk about Ilhan Omar in a moment. All right, that's fine. We'll come back to that. I do want to focus on what we're talking about right now, though, which is, do we have a problem? And like, I know I personally have a problem if it was a Republican or a Dem, since we're doing this little thing. If I got government funding for my business and then I turned around and I was spending that money on political campaigns, like now, I agree we haven't fully approved
It's
this
a corrupt
yet,
incentive
but
structure. It doesn't necessarily
but it
prove
does.
fraud.
What?
I'm saying it's a corrupt incentive structure if you have businesses that are potentially engaged in fraud and getting, or at the very least, getting a ton of government money, and then some of that government money goes to the very people that are supposed to investigate whether or not they deserve that government money.
Yeah, that's called. Hold on, that's we. You know what we call that? That's called a protection racket, right? You go down there.
Government
Yeah, we
is a
call it the
protection racket.
syndicate. We call it the mob.
Yeah,
The
like
people
wait, hold on,
with
hold on.
noses.
I don't. Hold on. I like if I'm in the mob. Let's say I'm the cartel and I open up a business and I say you're gonna give me $1,000 every fucking month, for protection.
That's
That's
different.
one thing. That's different, right? But there's no fundamental
That's what
difference.
taxes are.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. I guess you could say, but there's a difference between, hey, we're gonna cut you this kickback, and then I'm gonna turn right around and I'm gonna donate $1,500 to like 15 campaigns like so that y'all could get elected. Like that seems like there's a systematic, like in place system that this is what like these people that voted for
What do you mean,
Bernie
fraud?
originally
disagree.
and voted
No,
for
I
MAGA
disagree.
now. They're saying
I
that there's been a
disagree.
uniparty that's been
too
sitting
strong.
here and has been like a deep state almost. And like I don't agree with this idea that is, but I do see this idea that there are like structures in place that keep these people in power that are illegal. It seems like
No, it's
and,
like it's what George Carlin said, right? You don't need
It's all this innuendo. Is well, we all
don't-
know.
so
You
it's
can't
like what
really
George
prove
Carlin
it. There's
said,
no
you
really
don't need
evidence for
a
it.
conspiracy
But
when
we're just
like
gonna say
interests
we all
align,
know. Nudge,
right?
nudge, wink, wink. Like,
Well,
show
no,
me the
so-
evidence, and we can prosecute it. We know we can because Biden's DOJ.
You don't
did
give a
that.
fuck about
They
the
got
fraud.
actually
Stop. Let's stop being
They got
silly.
actual evidence. They went forth and did actual investigations. They did actual court proceedings, and they actually got convictions. All this innuendo bullshit is just that bullshit. Give us facts, give us figures, give us connections, make those connections.
So do you
for
think?
us.
So you think?
Wait, hold on.
Do you think
your
a
work.
thousand? Do you think?
Don't
Do
just
you think
say
1,000
shit.
federal agents should go in and go through all of the
so
paperwork?
wait, is this the same standard we have for
Do
Epstein?
you think Trump? Do you think it would be a
Wait,
good
what's
thing if Trump sent in 1,000 federal agents to go through all of the paperwork
If you
at
have
the government
evidence,
level?
investigate it. Whatever it takes to investigate that, I'm for.
Well, the
Okay,
reason I brought the
so you support
the
that.
hold on, the
But
reason
again, I'm gonna. He interrupted me, so I just want to
Interrupted you,
say,
brother.
You don't.
You're going on this directed, extended cut Lord of the Rings fucking rant. We're not here to watch your fucking movie. We're here to have a
you know why
discussion.
Lord of the
It's
Rings?
impossible to
Lord of the
have a
Rings is so
discussion when
long
you
because it's
filibuster
so good.
constantly because you're in
Right,
teacher
I'm just
mode
so
where
good.
you're
That's why I'm
going
going so
through
long.
hold on.
kindergarten.
So
all right,
again,
all right,
so
enough,
again, if
enough,
you would just
enough,
shut the fuck up,
enough,
if you would just
enough.
shut the fuck up and get to it real quick. So I get it. You're not here to have a discussion of any
I'm here to talk
merits
about
other
fraud
than
and
your
Democrats.
defense
And you're
of
bringing
the
up
of
Somali
fraud.
IQ.
So, anyways, yeah,
Jesus
Somali IQ is a
Christ.
big part of this
All right, you
discussion.
got-
But
you got,
regardless,
like,
I just want to say
30
this
seconds.
again. It's like George Carlin said, you don't need a conspiracy when like interests align. Just because these people are donating a bunch of money to Democrats doesn't necessarily mean that there is collusion. It is in the interests of the Democrats to not go after the people that are funding their campaign. And it's in the interests of the people that are doing a bunch of fraud to give money to Democrats so that they feel like we're buddy and so that they feel a certain way. You don't actually have to have a smoking
Sure, and it's
gun
in
of
the
like
public
a
interest
meeting that
of
they had
opponents
to
of
send an
Democrats
email
and
and being like,
opponents of these
you give me
people
this much
who
money
make
and I'll
shit
protect
up.
you.
Okay. Go.
What is being made up? What is the problem?
I don't know because you haven't said anything of substance. You haven't given me anything
I've
to
said a
chew
lot.
on. It's all vagaries.
I-
You've
so-
given me vagaries.
I've given. So you don't deny the numbers that I've given on welfare.
You haven't given
You
me
don't-
any numbers.
I have. You argued against.
Okay, what
them.
are the numbers you've given me?
The $1.4 trillion and the $70,000 to every poor family and
Okay,
the
that has nothing
redistribution
to
of
do
that
with
instead of
fraud.
welfare programs.
That's
Absolutely
you
it
about
does.
the welfare state. I'm not
Absolutely
here
it
to argue
does.
about the
It
welfare
has
state.
absolutely everything to do with fraud because if there was no fraud whatsoever and there wasn't kickbacks and all of these corporate fucking things and vendors and bureaucracy and it was just money, guess what? We wouldn't have any fucking poor people, would we? If they were all making six figures.
Hold on, let me. All right, let's go back to. I want to move it back though. I like because I personally don't know if I believe it's some grand conspiracy and everybody's involved. I do think that specifically Minnesota, it looks like they set up some kind of corrupt Tammany Hall kind of thing. Like, and so like,
Yeah,
what
for sure.
is the like level of evidence or like that we will need to say let's prosecute Tim Walz or like let's talk about Ilya
I'll
Omar.
give you something
Go
clear.
ahead.
I'll give you something clear. If you can show like an email chain or any kind of written or verbal communication between Tim Walz and the people who were investigating at the state level, and he was turning them off the investigation, right? And if he was saying, don't look into this, if he was impeding them, if he was firing the people who were engaged in the investigation, or if you found out that he was trying to help the individual companies or NGOs or what have you, or individuals to get away with the fraud, and by giving them advice and saying, hey, heads up, there's an investigative team coming here, then okay, sure, great. Let's go for it, right?
And his
there's
Cash App
probably
link.
also other lesser things that I might accept that I'd have to think about it for a little bit, right? But you know, it's not hard and fast.
What if
But
the
what I'm
internal
asking
memo
for
is
right
true?
now is anything.
What if the internal memo is true? Would that be like a problem for you?
Which one? Which internal memo specifically?
So, John Kennedy brought this up in an earlier hearing, right? I don't know if it's true because they didn't give me the fucking memo. According to Kesa Megan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It's a Somalian name. I have fucking no idea. Saying, quote, there was an internal memo at the Attorney General's office that says, quote, there is a perception that forcefully tackling this issue would cause political backlash from the Somali community, which is a core voting bloc for Democrats. If that memo is true, right, and that they are hesitant to go after fraud because it would be perceived as an attack against the Somali community because they know the fraud is rampant in the Somali community specifically. Like, would that be an issue? Do people need to be at the very least fired for that?
That obviously is an
that sounds
issue,
bad.
but does that prove, or is that evidence of them helping the fraudsters, or is this evidence of them being scared of being accused of racism in 2020?
Well, that negligence, if they're empowered to be the ones to prosecute and
Sure, but
investigate
there's a
it because of
different
their
there's a
fear,
different
would be
standard
helping
of
them.
there's a different standard of
Right?
accountability that I give to someone who's actively engaged in looking the other way because
For
they
sure.
know the
My
fraud is going
argument-
on, versus
Yeah,
someone
for
who
sure,
is scared to go after something because they might be accused of being racist. I think that
Well,
both
they
are
would know
bad,
that the fraud
to
is
be
going
clear.
on, right?
I think that both is bad, to be clear. And if that memo is accurate and true, they
Mhm.
do deserve some condemnation for not going forward with that.
Well, why would
Right,
you
know,
just
they
say
my argument
just real
isn't
quick,
necessarily that there's
if
a
I may
huge
finish my
conspiracy.
point,
Oh, my sorry.
we know that the Biden administration on a federal level did go after these people and did prosecute them and did hold them accountable. So it didn't seem to stop the overall arc of justice here. That's all I'm going to say. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say and again, this is why you were saying like, well, you're tying it to welfare, et cetera. That's why I'm tying it to welfare. And the reason that I'm tying it to the overarching program is because my argument isn't that I have any smoking gun that Tim Walz was involved in a corrupt scheme of getting like kickbacks for political donations to intentionally allow fraud to continue. What my contention is that the negligence and these voting systems, as Tyler put forward, right? That it's a feature, not a bug. That these massive government programs with limited oversight, where people are afraid to fucking go after people because they think it might be racism or it might hurt them in the next election if they go after specific communities,
Incentivizes
is
fraud.
a means and the process of all of the corporations that become the specific lenders is the real fraud. It's fraud that's legal. That's the real problem, that the entire system is incentivizing fraud to some degree and is stealing our tax dollars for an incredibly inefficient welfare distribution system that harms everybody.
No, I would like to maybe let's just take this as a hypothetical here. Like,
If
I'm
it's
bas-
legal, it's not fraud.
I'm basing this off of actually our shared chat.
Well, then
here,
Hitler did nothing wrong, right? Because it was legal. Like, no,
Jesus
like you
Christ.
can
Well, he
have
didn't-
things that are
I didn't
wrong
accuse
Hold
him
on.
of
that the
fraud.
government does,
Can
and they
I-
say it's
can I
good.
give you
Go ahead.
Yeah, let me. So, and this just came out in the I believe it was the House hearings today. I believe. Let me hang on. Let me just check my notes here.
It was like 4 hours almost.
The House meeting today. There's testimony from people in the state government of Minnesota who showed. They didn't say. They showed that Walz's government. Now, obviously, we don't know if Walz himself did it yet. Because they haven't gotten that far, but it's his government. Backdated $680,000.
A lot of it.
Yeah, $680,000 to a grantee. That's somebody who applied for money without evidence that any work was performed or ever would be performed, which means that that's fraud. And they knew it was fraud because there was no evidence that anything had happened. They just rubber stamped it. What would you say, Wick? Is that
just gross negligence, right? Like it doesn't necessarily.
I mean, come on. I mean, no, that's got to be.
That's what I'm saying.
It's willingly
looking
fraud,
the other
right?
way.
I'm asking. I'm curious what Wick thinks about that, because to me that's fraud. To me that's that's not incompetence. You willingly sign
are grants normally applied before the work is done, or are grants given after the work is done? I know scientific grants get some money before they do the work, right?
Well, it's a grantee. I don't know if it's a grant per se. It's it could be some kind of loan.
Okay,
It could just be.
Well, my
you know,
answer depends on
Yeah.
what type of financial transaction there were, because I know scientific grants, you were given the money in order to do the work, right? You were given the money, then you go through, you get do whatever it is that you're granted out to do, and then you present the findings, right? So in the case of them giving the money and then no work had yet been to be performed when they were given the money isn't necessarily evidence of anything to me. It would depend on the type of financial transaction that took place, and I just don't know.
Right. So I
Well,
guess
well,
the important part, which I missed, and my chat is screaming at me about, is that. Well, I mean, I said it. I just didn't call attention to it. Is that money was backdated, which meant that they applied for the grant at one point.
They changed records.
They changed
upon
records
federal investigation.
which is a crime in and of itself.
Let me try this, because
Well,
I think
if they do a crime, prosecute the
so.
crime.
Well,
was done, yeah.
that's
Yeah,
true. So here's my thing, right? I'm sitting here listening to this, and let's just run a hypothetical, right? So Walls, let's just say Walls ends up being guilty of a litany of crimes. We know we don't have the evidence yet, but let's just say they're starting, and in 2 years they find a bunch of evidence. I guess we're at two places, and this is really to my Dims first, and then y'all can answer. So what happens then? Y'all basically just ran Walls as y'all's VP candidate, right? And this is the second highest office in the land. You know, they basically, he's presiding over all this fraud allegedly. Let's see if he gets convicted. What does this say about the Democratic Party? One, if
Brother, I don't think
this
you
guy,
want to
hold on. I do want to go down this logic. I'll tell you why at the end. Is it that he's so incompetent that this all happened and I was watching, didn't get it. And the Dems were like, oh, we're purposely going to put somebody incompetent in there. Or B, that he was openly fraudulent and they knew, and basically they just are in cahoots, right? Because they benefited. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because for many years now, we've heard about Trump and all his alleged corruption. And so I've heard from the Dems, and many times, just in the chat today, that any Republican that supports
Legend's
MAGA and all these
word.
hold on. I've seen these things all in the chat right here, and they say, Republicans, they need to abandon their party. MAGA's a new party. Republican Party's gone. They've fallen by the wayside of this nasty thing. Would that mean that the Dems now need to become a new party? Like, do they need to just gut the system? What does this mean?
I think, and I'm going to take a brave stance here, that
Okay,
both parties have serious issues that they need to get sorted out. The weird kind of, if Tim Walz is guilty, in a world where Tim Walz is guilty of all these crimes, do I think he should be prosecuted? And do I think that the Kamala Harris's vetting team failed? Yes. In that world where he is guilty of all these crimes, I think both those things are true. My question is, I don't know if we live in that world, because I haven't seen evidence of this yet.
Not to defend the Democrats too much, but can we also recognize that the last presidential election, in terms of the Democrat Party's normal process of finding candidates, was a complete and utter shit show?
Fair, totally fair.
The failure really does stem from them being like, Biden's going to be the one running, and then realizing that it was not going to be possible to have him run. And they just slapped together a random candidate.
Fabian, the problem I have with that, and the problem I'm hearing from people that I talk to regularly, they go, well, the reason why they struggled is because they didn't go through their system, just like when Bernie ran, what was it, 2016, and they had the superdelegates to go shut him down and go, no, we want our establishment guy, right? And then they're saying, well, they didn't have a chance to find a new established guy. Well, right, sure, but they're saying we didn't have a chance to get our new established guy, so they put puppets in there like Walls, who was clearly in cahoots with the fraud. That's the argument they're making, and they're saying that there's some sort of establishment within the Dems that's evil. I
don't really want to go down this road too far because it's too far away from the topic, but I thought it was actually insane the way that they picked the Democrats. I actually really thought that they were going to run like Buttigieg and Newsom, but then again, neither one of those wanted to run with Kamala. They didn't want to be attached to that. They both have plans to run for president in the future, and they're smart men. And they said, no, we're not gonna nuke our entire fucking career for that. And that's so I don't want to go too far down this.
Well,
they went away from Shapiro so that they could be so they didn't have Jews. They were like, oh,
we have
fuck.
evidence that they were asked to be.
We won't get elected.
But again, it doesn't matter. It's off topic. You're correct, but I don't think we have, other than Shapiro, which there is some evidence that he was asked and turned down. I don't think Newsom or Buttigieg were asked, but I
Yeah.
could be wrong.
It probably should have been Shapiro, but then they were too worried that the
Well, if it was Shapiro, she
pro-Palestine
would've won.
people
If
wouldn't
she
have
was
voted.
turned down, I doubt they
Anyway.
tell the world. I asked everybody, but going back to
Well, I mean,
what
at that
James is
period of
asking
time, they
here-
had meetings with Newsom and.
Go ahead, Tyler.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So going back to what you're asking here, I kind of forgot the question listening to everybody talk.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
If
All right,
Waltz
let's-
is guilty
Control.
of this crime in 2 years,
2 years.
you know,
okay.
was it negligence,
No.
and then they were running an incompetent guy as a VP, or was it that he's a
Yeah,
fucking
I guess like
criminal?
my
Nobody
question
will
is
give a
like how much widespread fraud attached to like leading Dems will it take before like people are
Nobody
gonna say
will
it's
give
the
a fuck.
party?
One, the Democrats are trying to forget that whole Kamala Harris thing happened. She's fallen by the wayside. She said she was running for president. Didn't even hit the fucking media. I had to go look that shit up because it didn't hit a single news site. So nobody wants to remember Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. They want to just move on from that era and the time that they overruled their own primary vote and put up some woman that couldn't speak publicly. So I don't see that ever taking an impact. On top of that, I don't think hypothetically, if we get this rare instance where we actually get the guy at the top, Tim Walz was a nobody before that whole Kamala Harris thing. The only thing that's made him popular was running for VP. I don't think it hurts the party at all. He's gone. He's off the face of the fucking planet now.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that. I think that if enough
enough.
evidence comes out, I think the Dems don't mind having Tim Walz fall on his sword.
Who the fuck's that?
I mean,
weirdo?
obviously they don't want him. Obviously they don't want that. What I would say though, again, is how corrupt are the Dems? As equally corrupt as the Republicans, which is maximally, right? Like again, like there is this weird thing that statists require, this smoking gun of like proof of like kickbacks and explicit communication and fraud, which is just I think is an ignorant view of how government works. Is that again, like I said, you don't need a conspiracy when like interests align, right? You're a big corporation, you go to a local politician, you donate to his campaign, you give him a paperwork when a bill is about to come out and say, here's what our thoughts on the bill are. And this fucking doofus that is an expert in nothing, usually. It's very rare that there is a politician that's an expert in anything other than maybe business, and then like the occasional person that's like a doctor, right? Like they're usually constitutional lawyers that have been working in like government programs their whole life. And so they go to this person and be like, the chemical, fucking, DuPont thinks this is how the regulation should be on this specific chemical. And then they look and they go, oh, these people support me. They seem like good people. And then their fucking son goes to the same school and they, they get into Harvard, and then their son goes and becomes a philanthropist.
Yeah,
right?
that's
It's
how
like,
pork belly projects are. Yes, we
that's
know
how
how
all of this shit works. And what I'm saying is the bigger the government programs are, the more of this happens, the more outright fraud happens, as well as the fraud that we call not fraud because it's not illegal, but it's been made legal. When all these vendors and people get these huge kickbacks, and on top of that, they become like, the government preferred lenders, or they get all this money for limited services. And what I'm saying is that, and I will reiterate this over and over again, no matter how much it annoys all of you, which is this is a feature, not a bug. Okay, the entire system is designed to be highly exploitable and to funnel money to the rich and to give breadcrumbs to the poor. And if you genuinely believe that we should have welfare and wealth redistribution, you should just get rid of all of these fucking programs and turn it into a goddamn paycheck. That's it.
I mean, look, I'm kind of on your side there. I definitely feel like that we have far too large a government. We have too many agencies. We have too much money floating around with no accountability. And worse, and this is why I think, and look, Wick knows this, Ollie knows this, we all know this, right? That they make these bills purposefully multi-layered and bury all of this stuff in on page 158 of a 158-page bill so that you never find it. And say, see, we put it in there. This is legal, right?
Just a small caveat to that. I don't think they're doing that to hide it. I think that they're doing that because it's become harder and harder and harder to pass individual legislation, and so they omnibus everything. And so I think that
we have to pass it to know what's in
order to hide and obfuscate.
That?
A lot of
the
times,
thing is what it does.
If I can finish, a lot of times what they do is like they put it all into a single kind of omnibus budget resolution or something like that.
Sure.
And that's really the only legislation that gets passed, unfortunately.
Republicans do the same shit. Look at the big beautiful bill, right? Like, or
This
the
I
one
wasn't
big
I
beautiful
wasn't
bill.
I wasn't separating this from Republicans or
Yeah,
Democrats.
Well,
I'm
that was
not.
more
I'm
to,
not
that was more to
separating
grid
it.
than you.
Yeah, I'm not putting it in one camp or the other. I'm just simply acknowledging that that's what happens, even at the state level. Is they things get hidden
What's
in
more
these
than
bills.
that?
Yeah, but hold on.
It's more than that, 'cause something gets hidden, right?
Hold on.
Something gets hidden,
Hold on.
and then what happens is they don't actually specify in the hidden thing.
Yeah,
in
except
the
Gibbs is
omnibus
gonna say that's
exactly how
more
it's
of a
going to do.
Democrat problem.
What they do is they kick it to the executive. They
It is
kick
more
it to the
Democrat problem, though.
executive to actually determine all the parameters on this shit.
Can we get
No,
3 cheers for government here? Big government. Woo!
I want to go. So like here's the issue I have with kind of how y'all are taking this, right? Is in fact I went on Tim Pool and I argued about fucking Doge with Prime, right? And we sat there, we argued, and I said this is why we
In
want him.
retrospect, do you stand by what you argued?
I, in fact, want to triple down is what I'm about to do. In fact, I like fucking went there
Gibbs
and
eats bullets for breakfast.
I
okay?
will do. I think Doge has still been going and doing shit. I don't know why he keeps doing it yet. It's learned the wrong things. I sat there and defended it, and I pointed specifically to a case here in San Antonio of a center where they were just like, there's no reason they go, we have to keep these people on staff and they can't work anywhere else. They're paying some of these doctors $200K a year to literally, like, to do nothing. And like I was like, this is fraud. But people are like, no, it's legal, yada yada. And so I take like a little bit of an issue when y'all go, oh yeah, etc. etc. It's a feature, not a thing. I'm like, no. This is why Doges was created, was to go in there and find all this shit. And then now that we're finding more and more like across the nation, now it's like, well.
Didn't it fail though? The guy that came in and was
a
going to
distraction from Epstein, or the media's not talking about this, or look who's finding this, Nick Shirley. I'm like, I don't really care who finds it.
Hold on, even if
how
you
much
agree with
fraud did Doge find?
Yeah, even if you agree with Doge, like in its conceptual, like I think you have to acknowledge that Doge failed in its mission, correct?
I don't know. I've met some people that got hired by
but they only found like
Doge.
5% of the fraud they claimed that they were going to find,
which is
they weren't looking specifically for fraud. They were looking for fraud, overspending, antiquated
the point with
computer
Doge
systems,
is like,
all of that.
Fraud. Doge had no ability to prosecute fraud.
This is the same problem I have with
they were looking for
DOJ. Find it.
No, this is the
But
same
they
problem I
did
have with
find it.
Republicans.
I mean, that's
when y'all
it's absolutely patently false to say they did not find it.
But hold on, there's a group of Republicans that do the same thing with immigration, right? They go, Trump's lower numbers are lower than Obama. Trump's lower numbers are lower than Biden. And I go, well, that may or may not be true, but he built the wall. Now we have nobody coming in. So even if his numbers are lower, he's still working on the problem. Same thing with Doge. They might have promised, billions and billions and billions and trillions, right?
Yeah.
But then they're here finding something and they're working on it. Like, and then they're fighting tooth and nail. People aren't, you can't disagree with the fact people are like fighting them at every turn. I remember at one point somebody locked themselves in there and burned the records. Right.
Let me ask you this, Grid. Let me ask you this, Gibbs. Sorry, my bad. To me, here's my issue with what you're saying. Like, I don't necessarily disagree with you that there's a principal difference between somebody scamming, saying I'm running a daycare center with 85 kids in it and there's like 12 kids in it, right? And like some of those kids are like being given cash just to say that their kids are there or some shit, right? I understand that that's different than other things.
Happening?
But what I'm saying is
they're being given money to
Well,
say
their
that
parents.
their
Well, he said-
parents give them money to say that these are our kids and we're
I don't
keeping them.
know I don't know to what scale it's happening, but it's certainly happening. Right? Like, is it 20 kids? Is it 100 kids? Is it 10,000 kids? I don't fucking know. We need a full-blown investigation. But do we know that there is kickbacks to people? And do we know that people are being bussed in for random shit? That's happening.
But we do know it, Wick, because they have their
statistically,
licenses pulled repeatedly. I mean, come on, man.
Listen,
Stop it.
it's like when we talk about like voter fraud, and it's like, is voter fraud even happening? It's like voter fraud always happens. The question is whether or not it's statistically significant to swing an election, right? Like, this is obviously going to happen when there are trillions of dollars almost in welfare programs that some people are going to do those processes. To what degree is it statistically significant? That's a question for the investigation. But here's my question to you, Gibbs, is what is the difference to you, the taxpayer, the person trying to buy your become a first-time home buyer, the person that's middle class struggling and thinking, can we, like groceries are getting expensive, rent is going up. I don't have the money this year to be able to start a family. Can we family plan another year or two later? Right? What's the difference to that person between a Somalian or a white person, whatever? In Minnesota, it just happens to be like fucking 80-90% Somalians, right? That's not who's doing it in fucking California, and there's plenty of white people doing it all over the country too. Some Somalians somewhere scamming the government and getting a bunch of tax money for a daycare center with no kids in it versus a government program for housing that that a former like fucking congressman that like stepped out of the race gets millions and millions of dollars and only builds 80 houses.
Well,
Like,
I'll
what's
tell you
the
the-
principal difference?
I'll tell you the
there,
difference.
right?
This
Like,
is
it's
actually
both
easy one.
fraud to me
No,
into
no,
my
I-
paycheck.
This is easy, actually. It's very easy, and I feel like Ali's kind of alluded to this before as well. Like, I think y'all are missing the bigger picture. I know it's easy for us to be like, oh, well, one's American, one's Somali. It's not even that. It's that I think one group of people, when they're sitting here, the constituents that are wanting more of this investigations, they're going, okay, we have been bitching about this for both groups for fucking ever. And now they have evidence of, oh, hey, this group's doing it. Let's start there. And then once we start peeling back the onion, let's see what else is underneath this nasty bullshit. And then we can go after all of it. And like, so when you're going, what's the fundamental difference? You're actually working against your own cause if you're a libertarian. Because, I'm not a libertarian. I like us to spend some tax dollars. I like to whoop ass, But if you're a libertarian, you want all this gone, you should be happy they're starting somewhere, especially with incrementalists, because at least they're looking. Because, if you find it in one area, you're probably going to
We're
find
already
it in
there.
other
The
places.
attention is on it, and my intention is to showcase that the government cannot solve problems. They cannot solve the economic calculation problem, and that whenever they attempt to do these things, it always leads towards less economic prosperity for all Americans. That is why I am concerned. Like, you think I give a fuck about good government as an ANCAP? I don't. Right? Like, the attention's there, and I'm going to fucking use the time that the attention is there to showcase that this is how the whole fucking system works, and that it's not just some Somalians in Minnesota.
I think Fabian's point is that this is a distraction, right? It's going to be the Republicans are distracting for the Democrats, covering up for the Democrats, right? It gives.
I think it's the opposite of a distraction.
The entire government. It's the entire government that's working.
Yeah, I think
But
what
also
Fabian's actually saying.
I'm not saying it's a distraction.
Yeah, I think what he's actually saying is that right now the attention is focused on something that
peel
is
back the next layer of the
problem. We were focused on it. It is a problem. We know that this problem is occurring. There's evidence of this problem occurring. Now, we don't know who does it. We don't have evidence to put people in jail. Maybe we decide we don't need to put people in jail.
We might.
We can just cut off the funding, or get those people primaried out in the next whatever. I don't honestly don't give a fuck. But we've uncovered this fraud, this pattern of fraud, and it's the thing about this specific fraud that matters to me is that, yes, absolutely, I want anyone involved with it to be prosecuted. But even if that doesn't happen, the scale of it is significant enough that maybe this time next year people will still remember it when the next fraud item
when they're in the
pops
voting
up.
booth. When they're in the voting booth and some politician goes on the campaign trail, like Zoran Mamdani, for example, and says we're going to get free childcare for New York City. That is a part of my party. That is part of my platform, which it was. Right. It is my job to go, hey man, that's how this shit works. You're going to get fucked out of your wealth and prosperity if you vote for people that want to put in a bunch of programs like this. That it's less of that money than you think is actually going to go to kids. It's going to go to big business and to fraudsters.
If I may just real quick, like, I understand that there is never going to be a system that is free entirely and has 0% fraud, waste, and abuse. However, I think that we can limit it as much as we can and still have a lot of these programs to help people in their times of need. I do think that the state, there is a place for it. And just to briefly address this argument, like, it has helped me. It has helped my family. It has helped my friends. Is it perfect? By no means, right? Does it not need ever to be adjusted? By no means. But there is absolutely a place for us to have social programs that help our communities. These are not necessarily a bad thing. And I reject the premise that it is built by design with the intent to shrink the middle class and make us all poor and stupid or anything like that.
Scott doesn't think these things
I
are
ask
bad.
you-
You
reject the idea. Right. I specifically stated earlier that there isn't some hook-nosed person rubbing their hands together that is planning that. What I'm saying is the thing is what it does, and that's what the
Well, yeah.
incentive
Well, we know it wouldn't be
structure
hook nose with the
creates.
difference between
Right.
now, right?
Right, like
So let me-
the
if I may.
Democrats more so than the Republicans, but that
Yeah.
doesn't mean the Republicans are free of this. Are invested in a system that denigrates the white middle class in favor of the poor. And of racial minorities as a means of a voting block, and the incentivization is more socialist programs and more ways that enrich their friends and give breadcrumbs to the poor. That is my argument, and I would
Right.
also say
That's how it's always
that
been.
when you say we can have government programs that help, I would argue that that is an impossibility. That there is no such thing as a government program that has ever helped a single person ever. That is a falsity and a misunderstanding of economics and philosophy. It is not possible for those programs to have helped you, because what it has done, it has harmed you first by taking money out of the economy and lowering your opportunities and your wealth and prosperity, and then giving you some of that back, and it is a net negative for you.
If I may, Wick, and Ollie, you too, and even Tyler, I think I know. I think I know our other friend's position. How much fraud, waste, and abuse are you willing to tolerate right now? Do you believe the estimates that it's about 250 million or over or whatever it is?
Just California.
That's just California. Okay,
I
I heard that it might be over $1 billion. I just don't know that I believe that figure. How much is an acceptable amount so that you can keep you can keep the social programs in place?
Zero. Zero.
You want an actual number?
Zero is correct. Is the correct answer is zero. That's the best.
So
But
anytime it exists, we need to be strongly policing it and setting examples so it doesn't happen again. These safety nets are imperative, and the people want them. We need to make them work by weeding out fraud and being tough on it every single time, regardless of partisanship.
What percentage of the billions or trillions that we spend on welfare that end up in the hands of large corporations are you willing to accept?
As
I
much
mean,
as
are these
people allow
corporations
from
doing a
voters,
good
really.
job? That's like whether or not the
Yeah, there's
corporations are
multiple
getting
reasons
money
for that.
isn't my issue. It's, are they using that money to improve the lives of the community, and to what rate
No.
are they doing that? And we have to look at this
That's
at a
my
case-by-case
question.
basis.
That's literally my question.
Yeah.
It's
You're
like,
taking
what
10% off
percentage
the top.
Again, I am
10% for the big
very
guy?
happy
I think you're
is it
good.
10% for the
program
big guy? Because I've
I
heard that
participated
somewhere.
in when I was younger, when I needed it. I am happy that existed. I am satisfied with how it worked. It wasn't perfect.
You have
It was a little
Stockholm
annoying
syndrome, bro.
at
They
times,
stole that money
going through
from
the
you.
hoops
Yeah,
that I
yeah.
had to
Maybe I
go
think
through.
that's what happened.
I found
was
that annoying,
evil.
but it helped me
Wick.
out, and it gave
It's
me
like-
money in a time where I didn't have money.
You got
and that was very
paid less
helpful.
money because of that program.
No,
So
that's
grid
not true.
realist-
I would have
yeah,
spent
grid
that
That's
money
real-
on
that
other
is
things,
factually
video
true.
games, and all sorts of bullshit.
Yeah,
It
you would have
been
spent that
gone.
money on things
Right?
that you
But
wanted. Correct.
It's good to have a
and then you would have
safety net
stimulated the
so
economy.
that when you do get into an unforeseen circumstance and you're too young to have much saved up, that you're able to bail yourself out. That's
Should there be an
You're too
age
young
limit?
to
then?
have
Oh, hold
money
on, hold on.
saved
No,
up.
that's a good
Hold on,
point.
because they're
The world
stealing
is
That's a
half
good
of
better
your
point.
for
money.
America
That's a great
specifically
point,
is a better
Wick.
place
I like
now
your
than
point.
it was before we had these systems.
It's called a
We are
savings
wealthier, We
account.
are healthier. We live longer. We have more wealth. It's just on every metric possible.
Hold on,
Yeah,
Wick,
the
Wick,
Industrial
Wick.
Revolution
world
occurred.
Wick,
What
should
the fuck
there
are you
be-
talking about?
before the welfare state came into
Wick,
Refrigerators have become ubiquitous. That doesn't mean that the fucking government welfare program.
every time I say Wick, I think
saying
of
it
women
hasn't
and
hurt
some
us.
children as the giveaway program. Hey, Wick, let me ask you something. Should there be an age limit then? You just said for the young, it helped you out. Should there be an age limit?
I don't think that age would be the factor that I go. Do I think that there should be some restrictions on who can receive welfare? Sure, right?
Okay.
You can, depending on what program we're talking about, we can talk about like what those restrictions might look to be. But I think that it's very
What about a
possible for
time limit?
someone in a situation that's like 60 to lose their job and
Sure, yeah,
suddenly
You do have a time
have
limit. You do have a
not
time limit
enough
with-
and through unforeseen factors.
I
And
kind of want to
think
go down a
it's
rabbit
perfectly
hole here
fine
with
to help
with
them out.
with
Yeah,
Wick and
Social
Ollie.
Security, but
Well, let me answer your question real quick about
yeah,
about realistically, right? How much fraud am I?
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
Listen, if people were taking 10% off the top, like your average little scam, your average little fraud, I don't think anyone would care.
2%.
But when you're talking about $9 billion
Right.
in Minnesota, I think that's fucking great. Listen, it's fucking nuts. That's a lot of fucking money. I think if it was,
Ollie's
I
afraid
think that-
Michigan's next. Ollie's afraid Michigan's next.
No, our scams are different. We scam insurances. We don't scam the government.
I mean, hey, a scam's a scam. So let me ask you. All right, so
everyone's okay with scamming insurance every now and
I'm
then.
curious
Nope.
because this
That's
is
how you get higher
fascinating
insurance
to me.
premiums, by the way.
Should there be a
Scamming.
time limit on how long you can be on welfare or any of these other programs? Because we know, because we know there's
unemployment. Yes.
dozens of stories, hundreds of examples of people who are professional welfare recipients.
Well, hold on. When I was on unemployment, there was absolutely a time limit. I
There's a
only
time
had
limit.
a certain amount of time.
Okay.
I don't remember.
Well,
off
you
the top
said
of my head,
welfare.
but they made it very clear to me that I would not continue to receive these benefits after a certain amount of time.
It's how much money you.
But you
pay
said
in.
welfare.
So these restrictions exist.
Yeah. So for welfare, man, I think the issue is that you are just kind of giving money out directly to people. I don't like the idea of giving people a card with money. Personally, I've always preferred, I prefer like Section 8. I think Section 8 is better. Like gives people a cheap place to live that, someone is making money off of, right? Or if you want to do like food banks, right? If someone was getting food to
churches and food banks are great.
Yeah, free food versus giving people a card with money. I've actually always hated because I mean a lot of the times people either they turn around and sell it or it's just it's just a waste. You're
We've
giving
been
people
down
cash.
that road too with government.
Giving people money just isn't.
We've been down the government food road before. It's not a good one.
I love government cheese. I still remember that when I was a kid.
Well, I don't think necessarily government food, but man, so in the same way that you're giving out like a WIC card, right? You're giving out the bridge card, whatever it may be. If there was if there was like some fucking process where you go to Walmart and there was an allotment provided for you, right? That type shit.
Yeah, so the reason I have to, so I gotta be honest with you. So
you just described food stamps.
right, actual food stamps.
Yeah,
so when I was
maybe
younger,
that's
obviously we were dirt poor, and my parents occasionally had either unemployment. There were a couple of times I think my mom was on food stamps, but they were always off of it as fast as they could. Pride and all that. And I personally have never received unemployment or welfare of any kind myself. So I always wonder if I'm jaundiced, if I just don't have that ability to look at it. So I'm always very curious about how other people view it. And Ollie, you did a great job, man. I really appreciate that insight there. But
we appreciate
me personally,
tax dollars as a taker.
I don't know. I like when I'm sitting here. I feel like there's more than this. There's smoke. There's fire. When I'm hearing everything y'all saying. Yeah, I know. I got you. So like when I'm sitting here, and I guess last thoughts when we go to closing. What is the likelihood in y'all's minds? Because to me, I'm starting. I used to be pretty far, like not very high probability. To me, I'm starting to move more and more towards. I think that there's some sort of institutionalized corruption occurring, within the Dems. I think the Republicans probably had it with the whatever, but I think MAGA has come in and disrupted and created, probably their own versions of corruption, but not the same institutionalized that has been for a while. And I think we're starting to see it. How likely do y'all think that is? Just like a quick run around the room here.
Institutionalized fraud by the Democratic Party.
Yeah,
like a NGO system going on.
They're shipping it. They're bringing people in to vote, and they're giving them a welfare trap, and then they're doing the fraud. And the fraud's going back to because listen. I know y'all are gonna laugh at me, but Tucker Carlson's about as big as you get. He proposed this exact same thing to Piers Morgan the other day. So
sure, I'll ask you. I'll just ask you, and my answer is in the question. Given that the Republicans, who are enemies to the Democrats, who do not like them. Given that Trump is in the White House,
I like you, Wick,
and controls the whole administration, given that he's appointed Pam Bondi, Kash Patel into positions in the DOJ and the FBI, respectively, given that they control Congress, given that they control Senate, if there were evidence of this institutionalized fraud, why have there been 0 arrests? Why has 0 action been taken on this for Dems specifically as an institutional thing? So if it's like you're asking me how likely is it? Not very likely, because if it was there, absolutely Trump and them wouldn't just be talking about it. They'd be doing something about it, but they're not doing anything.
Or
I'll
they're
take-
involved.
I'll take the exact opposite position.
Yeah, I think
Let
they're
me clarify
involved.
the word fraud. You mean
Hey, go ahead, yeah.
legal fraud, or are you talking just colloquially like a plan to funnel money to the party?
I'm saying it's institutionalized. They're in cahoots. That's what my premise
Like, are
is.
you
for the
saying it's
script.
illegal, or are you saying that they found a way to do it
They're
legally?
doing both.
Okay, so I think that the latter is more true. We see with these NGOs, like Stacey Abrams' NGO had just started less than a year beforehand and did no work and got like $20 billion, and it was completely staffed with out of work Democrat staffers and Democrat members that worked for different administrations and such. So I think that they are kicking money back to their party in some ways that are probably completely legal, that are written into bills that get passed, like that came from the Inflation Reduction Act. So we can absolutely see that on paper. And if that's what you're looking for, I can show you plenty of examples. But if you're looking for illegal fraud, I think Rick's right. We need actual proof of that, and we don't have it.
So what I'll say is, over the last couple of decades, the Democrats have absolutely built a system of fraud in terms of corporations, Wall Street being a big one, NGO collusion, and specifically as I designed the socialist programs that are designed to import people to forcibly integrate, and to have loose immigration restriction while extreme welfare that just keeps going higher and higher and closer to what Europe does. I will also say, however, that the tide is turning, and that without a doubt, MAGA has committed far more fraud than I think probably the Democrats in the last 30 years combined all together. And what I'll say is this, is that over the last couple years, I think with wokeness dying, the national security state apparatus and the intelligence community has shifted from the position of US aid kind of style of foreign institutional capture via woke politics as a means of spreading democracy throughout the world. And what MAGA, specifically Trump, has done has engaged in the largest fraudulent scheme that we've ever seen in world history, which is acquiring 10% of Intel, having Jensen from NVIDIA, donate money towards his ballroom, connecting Palantir, turning over the databases for TikTok with Oracle, which is, previously worked on another government program with the CIA, so that we can have data centers and capture and control of our media, of our algorithms, and that the government and many of the people of Palantir, obviously working with defense contract agencies, over 3.3 billion as just part of the Intel merger, that what we are seeing is a majority of the global market is invested in AI, and there has been a massive collusion between the State Department, the intelligence community, and intelligence communities around the world, as well as Trump, to enrich himself, his friends, and the new American empire around AI, for election purposes and for political power. So yes, I think what the Democrats do as a means of fucking over the poor and the middle class, but specifically targeting the middle class to create, kind of like a you will own nothing and be happy kind of, new liberal order, is horrific and horrible. But we're seeing the tide turn a little bit. And I think, the corporate overlords that want to engage in controlling your data, controlling your information, controlling your algorithms is like the next phase of that. And I think that's predominantly Republican led right now.
Yeah. So well, I'm gonna say what Scott said, but
shorter.
What happens is Democrats are involved in blue collar and no collar crime, right? And then MAGA seems to be involved in white collar crime and white collar fraud, because what's happening is what's that between
you don't understand it very well. Then
really, no, you don't think
Wall Street overwhelmingly supports
collar?
Democrats. Why do you think Wall Street overwhelmingly supports Democrats?
No, I don't mean about Wall Street directly. I'm saying that like Trump
Were these
has his
closings
coin.
or we
Trump
White
has his
collar
scored?
crime,
He has-
NGOs.
wait, he has his coin. He has his $50,000. He has his expensive dinner meetings. He has his the gold Trump card, the immigration card, $500,000 get you your immigrant status or whatever the fuck it is. I'm saying that that's like
Trump
that,
is a
that type of
typical
shit.
fucking
They're doing more
New
highbrow
York,
shit.
Atlantic City fucking
Doing more
former
highbrow
mob scammer.
highbrow fraud.
The Democrats are engaged in as much.
Anyway, finish out real quick, and then we're gonna go to closings after you finish, Ollie.
I'm
Are you
on
done?
the-
Okay, yeah, let's go to closings. Oh, it zoomed in again. Here you go. Tyler, start us off with closing thoughts.
I love this
And-
camera.
I do too. I like
fucking
it's
camera,
like learning, but it's like so like some hand motions is getting confused. I don't know. It's getting better and getting worse at the same time. I'm hopefully they'll figure it out soon.
It's
But
an
go ahead.
Ozbot, right?
Yeah, it's no, it's something else. What is
No.
it? I'll tell you in a little bit. Go ahead.
Yeah, I gotta go take things out here in a second. So I'm gonna go through a couple of things I just never got to because we moved on.
It is an spot.
So what we kind of heard is a rebuke of our current immigration system and our social programs, and we got a long story from California that cost a guy a ton of money. And absolutely, you could cite some pretty bad examples if you're going to cherry pick the bad examples. But for every California high-speed rail system that takes 20 years and billions of dollars that never gets fully built, you can go to Florida and look and see that one get built in 6 years with significantly less money spent. It's just sometimes when you have democracy, you get inefficient people that come in and overregulate for the climate. That's where a lot of these things actually come from. It's not that the government's bad. It's that the people in that state wanted this specific regulation because they care more about the environment than their pocketbook, which is the voters' prerogative to make. It's not all about just the GDP and money. The welfare state isn't going anywhere. We all know the risks of it. We all know that this thing can exist. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Instead, we're going to police the very low amount of fraud that actually happens in it. The idea that people can do stupid or bad things, and that's the reason to throw out the system, would also say that since businesses fail, we should throw out capitalism, and nobody's going to make that argument because it's silly. So throwing out the welfare system because sometimes there's welfare fraud at very low rates, mind. Now, something that I want to go back to the immigration part too, because something like 80% of visa workers come to the United States, they work and then they leave. They don't stay here, they don't start a family, they usually send money back home to their families so they can get ahead there and then go back to their country when they're done. We need people to stay here. We need that perpetual growth. The reason why is because the boomers are now aging up to the generation where we need the government systems to take care of them. As Wick was saying, most of our money goes to these top generations. In order to get that perpetual growth with the birth rates we have to import people. If we're importing people, they're just working for a few years and leaving. They're not a long-term investment in the country. We're spending money to bring in short-term investments that only help us in the short term. We need compassion-based immigration to get people to stay here long-term. So we bring in some people that Grid would deem as an undesirable. Sure, their IQ is low. Sure, they're a little bit more prone to criminality. Sometimes they eat people's faces. It happens, you know. As the Statue of Liberty said, bring us your poor, bring us your tired, bring us your sick, bring us your inbred. And after one generation,
Your inbred.
they turn around and they become fantastic citizens in society. They go to college at higher rates. They usually make more money than average U.S. citizens. So long term, they stay here. We build our safety net even bigger because we have more people coming here to contribute.
David.
Yeah, I think this issue of ought we prosecute the Democrats? You know, if we find smoking guns, obviously, like I'm not going to cry about one criminal gang, which is the Trump administration going after another criminal gang, which are Democratic politicians. I think it's important that we look at this and that this blows things out of the water. And I do look at this very similar to the way that I look at Doge, right? Which is that Doge is largely a failure in terms of finding the amount of money and waste that they said they were going to find. But I think that it helped wake up a lot of Americans to just how stupid our government is. You know, people have a hard time with this potential paradox, which is that the government is maximally inefficient at everything that it does. It's full of fraud, waste, and abuse. It's the dumbest shit that any normal person would be like, well, I'd fix that if I was a manager. And at the same time, they have so much power. And that comes from the power to tax, because you can be as inefficient as you want if you can just take more money to solve the problem. And that's what we're seeing the collapse of the middle class in America because of welfare systems that have gone up over 700% in terms of funding in the last decade. We are watching, our deficit balloon, and a large portion of that, most of that, is due to Social Security. The solvency of the dollar is going to eventually break, and our credit system as our ability to sell bonds to other nations is eventually going to break. And what we're seeing is we have to constantly be involved in wars to try and maintain tying our inflation, the US dollar, to oil trading and OPEC, right? Why the fuck do you think we invaded Venezuela? Because the American economy collapses if we don't keep invading Middle Eastern countries and invading countries like Venezuela, if we don't fight BRICS so that we have a means of making sure that the entire world has the same inflation rates that we have so that we can prop up this horrific economy. And that's why it's important when we see all of this fraud, waste, and abuse in these systems that we understand that it is a feature, that this is how the wealthy elite and the politicians enrich themselves and enrich their friends at your expense. At the normal person that goes, I've never been on welfare in my entire life, but I'm hearing that these people are getting millions. Like, what the fuck is this? I put forward, as much as I'm a libertarian and I hate the government and I hate the state and I hate welfare, man, we could give every poor person in America, every poor household in America, $35,000. $35,000. Just straight up give them a check. Get rid of all these programs. $35,000 a year on top of whatever bullshit McDonald's job they have, and they would be fine. They would be thriving. They would be okay. And we would save $700 billion. We would save fucking more money than we've ever paid to Israel since it's been a nation multiple times over a year. If we just gave out checks instead of enriching corporations and the corporate elite and politicians and scammers. That is why the government programs do not solve problems. And that is why we should look at these situations of fraud and realize that it's not necessarily, it doesn't need to be corruption for votes, against whatever laws are made, but instead that's how the laws are made. They are designed to create a massive welfare state that incentivizes that the poor people from other countries with fucked up values and low IQs and high rates of fucking being inbred, that send a bunch of money back home to Somalia, that supports terrorism and causes more wars. And don't worry, if they cause a fucking problem somewhere, the American military can step in and have another fucking war in the Middle East, because it's not like we've stopped in the last 20 years at doing those. And recognize that is how the system is designed. It is designed as a eugenics program to outbreed high IQ and middle IQ people that are competitive and conscientious and keep them from building families and keep them from being able to succeed, and to create a permanent underclass in this country that fights for breadcrumbs. We need to abolish welfare. You'll never solve this problem by prosecuting fraud, because the system is fraud.
All right, thank you. So it's Grid.
Oh, okay. I'd made an assumption that you were going to let Wick or Ollie go before me, but that's okay. Yeah. Look. So, Tyler, your closing sucked, man. I got to be honest. While I enjoy listening to Tyler, the points, look, he's wrong about the percentages. He's wrong about so much, but I'm just gonna point to what the on topic stuff is. First, there is fraud. We know there's fraud. I heard a billion. Ollie said way more, so maybe he's more up to date on the numbers than I am. But even if it's even if it's only $9 billion in fraud since whenever they started, that's too damn much. It's too damn much. What has actually happened is not a eugenics program per se, as my friend Scott pointed out. But what has happened is portions of our government and private industry together have built a machine, a very efficient machine, an industry that steals money from taxpayers on an ever increasing and amazing level. There is no other word for it. It is theft. Nobody actually gets any benefit from that. Everyone who says, well, welfare helped me out. Yes, that's great. It was state run. It wasn't, I'm glad that you as an individual were helped. However, we're not talking about you as an individual. We're talking about companies that get money to provide daycare for students that don't exist, or to provide learning for adults that never go there. And yet they still get all of this damn money that comes from my taxes and Scott's taxes. And I'm assuming Tyler still pays taxes. I don't know. But
You're leaving out Ali, you fucking racist.
Well, I have to leave out Ali because he's from Michigan.
I avoid as much as I can.
Yeah. I'm not even sure Ali admits to being employed. Okay. So, I'm just saying, it's a machine and it's wrong. And I don't care whether it's the Republicans or the Democrats, but I think it's pretty clear in the 2 states that have been affected the most so far that a lot of it is done with members of the Democrat administration's knowledge. Now, whether or not they were complicit, that's for a court to decide. Whether or not they're guilty of an actual crime, not my decision, pal. That's for a court to decide. And if they're acquitted, all great, wonderful. But that doesn't change the fact that we know this is happening, we know where it's happening, and we know who's involved. We just don't know how much. Beyond that, I think we've had a lot of around the poll discussion tonight that really doesn't matter. But it was interesting and I had a good time. So yeah, that's where I'm at.
Thank you so much. Ali?
Yeah. So I guess the more and more I have these conversations, especially with Scott and then people in and against him, in theory, I agree with Scott. I'm not gonna lie, I think he's correct in what ought happen, right? I do. Listen, I do. But in practice, I kind of align more with Wick, right? I do like my social policies. We do live here. In reality, I'm okay with a little bit of fraud, a little bit of scamming, 10% off the top, keep it clean, keep it light, keep it simple, right? But we do seem to be living in a world where it seems to be increasingly more government against the people. And if that's going to be the case, right, I'm going to start looking into how many daycares I can open up, because apparently it costs fucking nothing. All I have to do is rent a little studio somewhere. This is, quick, and you don't get in that much trouble if you get caught. So
you just close down.
Just saying, recommendations. Thanks for having me on, Gibbs. I really appreciate it, fellas. It was a pleasure arguing with you tonight.
Thank you so much. And Wick?
Okay, well, we had a lot of words said, a lot of arguments made. Here's the long and short of it, and I'll do my best to be as concise as I possibly can. I do believe that there was and is fraud in Minnesota that is being conducted. I think that the evidence that I have seen suggests that more often than not, when fraud is found, it is investigated, prosecuted, and stopped. At least that was the case under the Biden's Department of Justice, and we know that they did. One of the problems I have with this conversation is so many people are living in the vagaries. They're living in this vague innuendo. I've asked several times during this panel, can you show me, right, the implication that the Democrats have this industrial scale fraud that they knowingly have set up to milk the taxpayer and to get these kickbacks? If you have evidence for this, by all means, prosecute it. But the fact that they aren't doing this, at least not towards Walz or Omar or any of these big names, suggests to me that they probably don't have any actual evidence. And I don't think that we should be going off of YouTube videos, right? When you have this same group of people who consistently get stories wrong, right? Because they have poor journalist practices, right? We shouldn't be trusting them in order to pull all funding because he made a video. If you wanted to pull all funding because there was fraud going on, and then you decided, well, because of all these things that the Biden DOJ was prosecuted and all these other investigations, fair, but they're not doing that. The JD Vance was saying, oh, Nick Shirley should got a Pulitzer Prize for his award-winning journalism or what have you. It's just silly, and I don't like silly. Look, at the end of the day, if there's fraud, prosecute it. but I haven't seen evidence that Tim Walz is like secretly funneling money to Somali paymasters. So, you know, it is what it is. Wick TV, all platforms. I love you all. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Thanks so much for being here. Tomorrow, 7:30, Golden Dome, Golden Fleet. We're going to be arguing about that. I think Bill Burns will be here. And Friday, we'll be on Wix at 5. Should be wild. We're going to be talking about, what are we talking about Wix?
Well, just to be clear, yeah, I'll tell you guys what's going on with that. Because a couple of people here are going to be on that, and it's at 6 Eastern. Just so my viewers aren't confused.
5 p.m. my
Eastern.
time.
Yeah.
Eastern is the only time that matters in America. The majority of the U.S. population
Central
is on the East
time.
Coast. Our capital is on the East Coast.
Central time
New
is the
York
only
Stock
time.
Exchange is
Yeah.
on the East Coast.
6 Eastern.
Central,
6
right there in the
Eastern.
name.
6 Eastern. We're having a Destiny versus Dev. I'm sorry, a Destiny and Dev versus the World panel, specifically on January 6th. The
You
White
still
House.
work with that creep?
Which one, Dev or Destiny?
Destiny. I was just like,
yeah, of course.
You still.
Like,
oh man, that's so
I will
pathetic.
work with anyone, right? But regardless.
Anyway, let him finish.
Regardless, okay.
Oh, that's just sick. It's
On
gross.
January 6th, the White House put out a what some might call fraudulent version of events of what happened on January 6th, including accusing Democrats of being the real insurrectionists. Dev and Destiny had a problem with that and invited all comers to come in and challenge them. And I've invited some of these people, lovely people, to come in and do that. And if you have a problem with it, we are going to at some point open up call-ins during that show, so feel free to get in line. But yeah.
How long do you anticipate that being, Wick?
Good question. Depends how much energy you guys bring to it. So
I mean,
and on that note, we're going to go raid someone I'm going to see in 2 weeks for IRL content. We're going to raid Scott. So y'all be good. Thank y'all so much for being here. It was good times, as always. Y'all be good. Y'all be safe.
Bye.
See you guys.
Have a good night, fellas.
Give me a second.
$5 came in from Kronos. 420. Coup Machine welcomes 20 Billy for the past decade for fuckabouts. All right. J6 was a Fedsurrection. That's what's up. Proof I read the chat. Wait, hold on. All right. So, what'd you guys think of that? Tim Hale, you want to jump up, buddy? I'll throw you a link over in the Discordium. J6 was a Fedsurrection. Yeah, put on pants. That would help out. Destiny is taking time away from his Pixie legal case. Yeah, that's probably true. It's a very interesting thing with this debate. I find it a little interesting. All of the things that basically all the things that Wick had to say was just, hey, you can't prove anything. Well, that's the point, right? Like, we can't if we could prove it, they'd be in fucking jail. Or if there was somebody willing to prosecute it. And we kind of worked our way around it. But you know, two things can be true at the same time. Walls can be funneling money away from those programs into and be fully aware of fraud and getting kickbacks from that fraud while not getting prosecuted for it. You're not proving anything by saying, well, what has he been charged with? Honestly, don't really care. That's not the point. So, and I kept saying that, and he kept just circling the single point that he could make. That is the only point that he could make. So, that's fine. I'm going to jump off for just 1 second, guys. I want to cam down, and I'll be right back. There we go. You never expect anything? You're all good. You guys are all good. Yeah, WMD did time out Tim Hale, but he'll be back. He's got to go put pants on, and he'll be right back. Hopefully, I thought I had him on. I thought I had him on Discord, but it doesn't appear that I do. So let me got to go to X and send him a link. Tomorrow night, I'm debating the Golden Dome. That's right, folks. I'm debating the Golden Dome. Do I have rating on? Yes, I do. I do have rating on. You can raid me, and I can raid you. What's up, School of Thought? How are you? So let me. I'm going to send old Tim Walls. Awesome, School of Thought. I am sending Tim Walls the link via X right now. So we'll get Tim Walls up here. I don't have a ton of time to spend tonight, but you need to talk to me later? Okay, I'm always around. So feel free. Feel free to hit me up. The link is in your X, my man. Scott ended before I could suggest the raid. That's all right. Pants are on. All right. I don't have you in Discord. Tim Hale. Criminally funny J6er. That's what's up. My man, Tim Hale. we're going to talk a little bit about the J6 thing because I have a debate on Friday, as some of you just heard. How do you find me through? Well, let me help you with that. I got you. The easiest way is just go join my server. Anybody that's not a member of my server should join now because it's the coolest server ever. So there you go. What's up, Trippy Raiders? Good to see you guys. Come on in, hang out, put your feet up, stay a while. All right, Trippy Cast, my man. How are you, sir? How are you? You just missed a hell of a debate, but that's okay. We'll do another one. I'm debating the next 3 nights, guys. I do tomorrow night. I'm debating Golden Dome, whether or not the idea of the Golden Dome as a protection for America and against foreign nuclear weapons is a good idea or not. It's Golden Dome versus Iron Fleet. You would like to debate Speakeasy? I'll set that up. I mean, he hates me, but it should be all right. Oh, he doesn't hate me. He doesn't hate me. Tim Hale is the criminally funny J6er. And he spent 3 years in federal prison. So, but yeah, so the Discord link is out there. You guys join up on the Discord. Go be, don't. I'm not taking that bet, Trippy. I'm not taking it. Sorry. No, sir. Golden Dome was bald Asian. That's funny. Hey, speaking of badass Asians, look, guys, I talk about my wife all the time. And I know there's a bunch of people out there that are probably like, making shit up or whatever. And, I just, I'm going to show this picture. Now, this is a picture taken that my wife had taken in Shanghai about a week ago, 6 days ago. And she had it taken in this very famous hotel where one of her favorite movies was shot. And this is like it's a really famous place to have your picture taken. And so she had a whole photo shoot done there. They took like 200 and some odd pictures, maybe more than that. She didn't really say. It's just such a great picture. While we're waiting on Tim just showed up. I'm going to show this picture of my wife first. There's my wife. And it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful picture. Cannot keep it from you guys. So there you go. Now let me hide that on stream, and then we'll throw Tim Hale, the man, the myth, the legend. Tim Hale, how are you, sir? Hey, look, it's the green screen.
I'm doing well. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, and you sound exactly like a dark over or underlord.
I like to be in around Lord. I don't like to brag.
Around circumference.
Maybe cubed. I don't know.
Cube. That's funny.
I don't want to be controversial.
That's funny. That's hilarious. So how the hell have you been, man? It's been a couple of months since we talked.
Yeah.
You've been busy.
I've been busy writing up, the first volume of the Gulag narrative. I actually went back yesterday for the anniversary. I just got back from Washington D.C. And guess what I did? I took a tour of the Capitol.
You went and visited the old haunt.
The old stomping grounds. I took the official tour this time.
The official tour. All right. Hey, Demolished Doctrine is back. Wow. I haven't seen him in a long time.
Party's just started. The I don't know if you saw did you see the Antifa chick get her bullhorn? I don't know if you
No, I didn't
followed
see
her
that.
yesterday. There was the mother of Ashley Babbitt, the woman who got shot through the neck. They went, they had like a march in her memory.
Mhm.
And DC, of course, is full of degenerates. So this Antifa chick who was actually at the Capitol on January 6th, she never got charged because she was a counter protester.
Oh,
She
yes,
was
of
there.
course.
She was there on a bullhorn harassing people, and she didn't have a good time. It didn't go her way, which I disavow, of course. But
Right, right.
yeah. Oh well. But what's going on, sir? How's it
Well,
going?
I'm getting ready I've got a whole string of debates the end of this week. So
Hmm.
tomorrow night, I'm debating. Let me get the exact. So I'm getting messaged here. And let me. I gotta click a bunch of buttons here. Give me 1 second. Sorry, it's terribly unprofessional, but it is what it is. All right. So there it is. All right. So where is my all right. So now the debate tomorrow night is going to be me, Dylan Burns, Jake Varr, non-smoking, and Aircraft Sparky. And the at least I think it's Aircraft Sparky. It's Jason. I don't know which Jason it is, but I think it's Aircraft Sparky. Anyway, so this is Golden Dome and Golden Fleet. I said Iron Fleet. It's Golden Fleet. Which one's better? Which one's better for America? Which one's going to provide which one's better to provide security for America against, various attacks? The conventional wisdom is we need the fleet to sail the 7 seas, whereas, non-interventionists such as myself are like, hey, keep those boys home where they can do hard work here in America that we need done. Then we don't have to import third grade level Somalis or whatever. And
4th grade, come on.
4th grade. You're right. I was being generous. So we don't have to import cousin fuckers to do the work for us. We've got our own boys here to do it. And if we
don't have to, we get to.
We get to, right. It's funny. Yes. You're right. That's a very fair point. And but with the Golden Dome, we keep everybody home. We can say fuck the world. We don't give a shit about you, and we're protected, and we can, in theory, protect anybody on the planet. So I'm undecided which way I'm going to go here because I kind of like both ideas, but I'm a non-interventionist. So my proposal would be to keep the fleet at home, patrol our shores only, tell everybody else to just go fuck themselves, and put the Golden Dome above us, and just let it sort itself out like it did in 1910.
So is this an either or scenario? Because it seems like you have the dome.
It kind of I'm it's not fleshed out completely yet.
Because I would say initially the Golden Dome would be the most, if your position is inherently based in non-interventionism, there is the old concept of the Fortress America, and a Golden Dome seems like the quickest route to that. Though I'm a proud imperialist pig, so I support both. Yeah,
I support both, as I should. I'm just saying that the way that the fleets would be used in my mind is the kind of where the breaking point. That's probably going to be my opening. Is it's not that it has to be one or the other. I want it all. Right now we have complete and total air superiority. Right. We have more or less the most lethal standing army on the planet. Now we don't have the biggest standing army, but in every single combat scenario that we've had, real life, not simulated, our troops typically operate on a 10-to-1 kill ratio or more. Now I'm talking about, land combat, not and not armored, not not throwing mortars out. I'm talking about mano a mano, right? Which is what we've been doing, right? We've gotten away from armies, trench warfare and all of that, except in Ukraine. Ukraine's about to go to trench warfare. What's up, Mikey Balls? I see you out there. I see you. But so
I think there's different factors. Like with Ukraine, for instance, of course, they're in that unfortunate area, the Eurasian steppe,
yes.
Eurasian there. So I mean, the trend.
Mhm.
Yeah, look, I mean, I would again, I'm all the above as well. But if for your position, yeah, I mean, you can always have a navy and be non-interventionist, but because America is essentially the core of North America, it's got those two big oceans.
Yeah.
You wouldn't necessarily need a massive navy to defend
Mhm.
the homeland from an invasion. Now, Guam and the Pacific territories we have, maybe that's kind of up in the air. But typically America's not that susceptible to a land invasion if that's the primary concern is the core
Right.
territory. So
Right.
I would say the Golden Dome because it's if a projectile or missile weapon is the most deadly thing we could face theoretically in the new age, then yeah, that's
I mean,
the most immediate.
the current like fear, if you will, is the fact that all these other countries are talking about hypersonic missiles, which can reach us in unheard of times, and some of them actually work. Smoking Spaceman, I disagree with that. We have been our troops have been fighting continuously in the desert for 70 years. Right.
And elsewhere that they don't tell you about. It's kind of like the
Right.
Roman army. The Roman
Yeah.
army didn't always win everything always forever, but they were battle tested because
Yeah.
they were constantly
Yeah.
engaged in conflict.
We've been fighting in one war or the other for the last 70 years. Since we started that little dust up in Iran where we killed the Shah or president or whatever he called himself at the time.
Mohammed Mossadegh.
Yeah. Yeah, back in 1948, I think it was.
It was in the 50s. It was Operation Ajax. They removed Mohammed Mossadegh. He was the prime minister, and they installed the Shah.
Mhm.
Or are you talking about the Iranian Revolution where they removed the Shah?
No, I'm talking about 1950. I guess it was 51 or 52. Yeah, you're right. So you're right. I don't know why I was thinking like 48. It doesn't matter. But yeah, so when they removed when the CIA had the great idea to remove the president, and then we went to war. We kind of went to war with Iran, not really. We were in North Africa for a little bit. Then we were in Vietnam, officially, non-officially. Then we were in North Korea, non-officially, then officially.
And then are we gonna not prop up British petroleum in the Middle East? That's absurd.
Yeah, right. And then we were in. Then we went from Korea to. Technically, we were not at war for a few years between Vietnam and between Vietnam and the first of the Desert Wars, which
you had the Persian Gulf, and I mean you had smaller police actions.
Yeah, right. Technically, we weren't at war with them, but we were still doing stuff.
The prequels to Maduro.
Right. Yeah. And we were doing stuff. And then we can't leave out Haiti. We were in Haiti for a while. Rhodesia.
Dominican Republic. It was Operation
Dominican
Power
Republic.
Pack.
We hit all of the hot spots. Right.
Yeah. It's the world tour.
We've done the world tour. Yeah. We got all we got all the souvenirs we need. We got the I was there t-shirts. We just need to stop. Just bring everybody home.
I can't get enough Infinity Stones. We need more for the Gauntlet.
Yeah, more Infinity Stones.
It's like Pokemon. You gotta catch them all.
That's funny. Yeah. Yeah, I think we're just in a different league as far as warfare than basically any other country. I do agree that the Russians and the Ukrainians have more experience getting killed than we do. I'll agree with that.
Yeah,
we
it's
just
a little. it's kind of like
And we've also
I mean,
changed tactics. So
yeah, it's an ever evolving thing. Different theaters require different kinds of tactics. I mean, currently, and again, I'm not saying it's universally like supported or agreed upon, but like you can see in the Pacific how the Marine Corps is starting to adjust its strategies for dealing with a potential war with
well,
China. Like,
my buddy who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, his job is enhancing lethality. That was a 6-hour stream I had him on. $5 comes in from Chronos 420. Don't salute for Maduro that Biden humped, but Orange Man bad for cleaning it.
What?
I think I
have a stroke. What?
I'm struggling here a little bit. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. But don't.
I think I'm having a medical.
I guess maybe he's saying that Maduro and Biden just basically kissed Maduro's ass, and then Orange Man's bad for cleaning up the mess. I get that. I get that. I'm there with you actually. I think somebody needed to clean that shit up. Yeah. So my theory is that if we just stop providing security for all the world's shipping, including Chinese, don't coom for Maduro. Gotcha. So it's, from my point of view, we provide all of the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was looking at the comments. Someone said hookers on phonics didn't work for him.
That's true. That's true. That's very funny. Look, my perspective is, and it's been for a long time, that we don't need to be the world police. We don't need to guarantee shipping lanes. We don't need to do any of that. And what that really does is it weakens us because we don't have we do not as a nation want to do what's necessary to really secure those sea lanes. And because we don't want to go in and wipe out, an entire tribe of who the fuck ever that's, pirating, oil tankers and shit, Captain Phillips kind of stuff, like we as a nation just simply don't want that blood on our hands for whatever reason. I mean, I don't mind. I mean, I'm like, fucking put two in the back of their head and move on. But that's.
I mean, I would. He would.
That's just me. I mean, that's how I would do it. I'm just saying. Right. But but as a country, I don't think that we're there anymore. So, if that is the case, then we're first of all we're putting our people in jeopardy every time we perform an interdiction, because the people on that boat will have no problem shooting at us. But we're hampered by not being able to shoot back until they shoot until they shoot at us. So that's it's just the way it is. And so when you have when we're the ones that are guaranteeing all of this free travel, that means that Britain doesn't have to worry about their ships, and they're not providing any sea cover for their ships. They're not dealing with pirates. We saw that right with the Melba Star or whatever the hell it was, the British ship that got hijacked by the Somalis, and the British paid and they killed them anyway. And because they don't have a navy, what are they going to do? Right? I mean, they got a small navy.
A lot of this is really a consequence of I'd say the idealism of the 20th century. The idea that you could replace the British Empire with the Pax Americana, and in so doing, you could also change the expectations of sovereign states, where they could all be. And hey, look, you want to be vassals of the United States and reap the benefits of protectorate status. That's fine, but then we also kind of treat our protectorates like they have no responsibilities to us as well. You see it with the foot dragging that the
Yes.
Europeans do when it comes
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
NATO.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, that's the reality, right? Like everybody has a problem with China building ships right now, and I'm like, hey, I want China. All right, let China build ships to protect their own ships. I don't want to risk American lives guarding Chinese freighters coming over here with cheap shit. And we're paying those people too, right? Even if they're not, even let's just say that it is just a nice little cruise, 30 days or whatever it takes to go from China to LA. It's probably 2 weeks, right? 2 weeks on the boat, 2 weeks there, 2 weeks back. It's a nice little cruise for our guys. Why? Right? Just let the Chinese take care of their own shit. Right? And that way, if we're dealing with Somali pirates or Chinese pirates or Taiwanese pirates or Filipino pirates, I'll give you whatever kind of pilots, dread pirates, who cares? Let those guys do it. Or if you have a country like I don't know, like Mali gets their short hairs all straightened out and decide that they want to, they're big guys now and they got a couple of patrol boats they bought from Russia and they start trying to interdict ships and start performing military operations, right? Yeah. Why do we want to go deal with that when we're reaping none of the benefit? Right? Those boats are generally not flagged in the U.S. because of our tax system. They're flagged in like the Dominican Republic or somewhere, right? Liberia is like really popular too, and they're insured by Lloyd's of London. They're not insured by a U.S. company. Why do we give a fuck? Other than our, the next shipment of Lenovo computers might be delayed, right?
Nobody better lay a finger on my Lenovo computers.
I'm just saying, what's up? Seriously, Shelby, I see you out there. Is it defending Chinese or globalized American manufacturer shit? That's a great question. It's both, actually. $5 comes in from Chronos 420. Why are we still tickle PP from Sally Struthers, who hasn't lost from the 70s, from before I was born? Woo woo Africa, but I'm super R. You're not retarded. You're right. All the money that's been sent to Africa from the Sally Struthers for those fucking kids could have just probably bought Africa, to be honest with you. We got probably and
buying Africa, that was the problem to begin with.
Right. No. Oh, I saw this meme the other day. I saw this meme, and it was this black girl, and she says, "Date a white man, he better have a boat." And then another one says, "He better own that boat." And there's this white guy playing golf. He's like, "We tried that already." And it's got a
yeah. And
it's got a picture of Africa and an arrow pointing to North America. We tried that already. Oh man, that was mean. I'm going to hell for that one. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to hell for that one. But it was funny as fuck. So
yeah, but no return policy too. So
yeah. I'm sure that the AI program doesn't get the joke. So
Liberia would be the 52nd state.
Yeah. So so Tim, I'm going to try and get you in this Destiny debate because this is up your alley, brother. He's literally like, the claim is literally that the Democrats are responsible for the insurrection because of Nancy Pelosi's actions and inactions, because of the rhetoric that was spewed, because of the apparent use of federal agents as provocateurs, and all of that. So it's an interesting take. And Destiny is like, he's like, whoever wrote that should be yeah, it should be cast out. And wow.
It's an interesting. Well, I mean, like the spirit behind it is true. Like it's really just to me. It seems like it's just
It's hard to
quibbling
prove,
over.
right?
Well, I know like semantics is important sometimes, but it seems like it's just the word insurrection in this instance. That's the hardest thing to prove. Do you take that at face value, or do you argue the principle that this was a setup and then they lied about it afterwards? Because they clearly did both. It's just a matter to me. How do you call it an insurrection? Obviously, J6 wasn't an insurrection at all. But when you say if the Democrats did the insurrection, how do you argue that from the other side without committing the same fallacy?
Right.
Yeah, to me, I would say that it was a riot. It was a setup, and it was misreported. It was atrocity propaganda. But like, how do you argue it as or as not an insurrection from the side that has been saying it's not an insurrection? So I would just want clarity on what actually is the complaint. I mean, Destiny's going to cry and complain and shit his pants regardless of what the actual linguistics is. But I just wouldn't want to misunderstand the argument ahead of time. But I mean, I was there. I know there was no insurrection. And I know there were plenty of feds. I came across 2 FBI informants who were there that day.
Yeah. So one of the things that you told me, and I remember I think you showed me some documentation that the guys who let the Proud Boys through, the guy who actually broke the window or door, whatever they went through to get into the building, that guy was a federal agent undercover, and he was the one that said, "Hey, let's go in," or whatever. And I have not been able to relocate that documentation, because that's one of the big things that's actually one of the big things that Destiny loves to point to, is the Proud Boys breaking into the building.
So the Proud Boys didn't break into the building. One guy who I was locked up with, his name was Dominic Pizzola. He's the guy who uses a riot shield to break through a window that people initially jump through before opening the doors. But he's not the first person who damaged that window. The first person is an unidentified, I guess, Indian-looking individual, brown skin individual, who goes by red on red glasses online. He's never been identified. He's largely believed to be some sort of crisis actor or something like that. He was also present where Ashley Babbitt was shot. He's very suspicious, but he's never been identified. So like, this is kind of an unknown.
Gotcha.
But the first person to damage the window, you think would be the first person they would identify, and he hasn't been.
I mean,
Dominic
I would think so.
Who I think you're thinking of is James Knowles, who was an FBI informant who infiltrated the Kansas City Proud Boys. He was there opening doors and engaged in different breaches. He was with Ray Epps for the initial perimeter breach. He was involved in, breaching the Capitol Visitor Center by blocking a roll down door as it automatically rolled. And he even testified to his handlers. The Proud Boys did nothing wrong. In fact, they helped the police keep order. So, yeah, I mean, but then there were also federal informants like Michael Allen Jones, who was a Patriot Front informant. Patriot Front is that white supremacist group of people with the khakis that everybody thinks are feds because they're feds. I met one of those guys. He tried to entrap me, and he was like a kiddie, person, and they put him in khakis, and it's as simple as that. They were everywhere, but in terms of names and stuff, I mean, there were also undercover police officers who encouraged criminality. There were FBI agents who were on the east side of the Capitol. They were clapping. One's name is John Guindolo, and he was with a bunch of Capitol police. They were actually clapping as people tore down the barriers on the east side, and then on the west side, you had a bunch of the electronic surveillance unit with the Metro PD, who were infiltrating the crowd and encouraging people to breach. So they were all over the place, and every agency was there, really.
Yeah. So one of
Room.
the things that I read, I don't know how true it is. And unfortunately, I don't mark all this stuff and like save it in a file like I probably should. But I read something that all of the weapons that were found were actually, they all seem to have come from police officer or law enforcement. Let's not say police officers, some form of law enforcement or undercover agents. Like,
So here's the interesting thing. It's this armed insurrection. But when you ask people, when you point out something like nobody shot a cop, how is it an armed insurrection? The immediate thing is to use some line from Google or from an NPR article, and they'll be like, hundreds of people have flagpoles and pepper spray. And it's just like, I mean, some people brought stuff like that because they thought Antifa might jump them, or the flagpole was just a flag and they kind of charged them. What weapons though? Like some people, like the police left out duffel bags with mace very negligently, you might say intentionally, but I mean, in terms of firearms, there was one guy who had a firearm that was shot. His name was he went by Cowpoke, and he was Spanish fellow, and he fired a gun into the air, never shot anybody. He did it on top of a scaffold, and they knew who he was because he was involved in a stabbing murder out in Utah, and they left him alone for 3 years until J6 defendants started actually questioning it, and then suddenly they charged him. If it was an armed insurrection, the first person they would have arrested was the guy who literally discharged the firearm, but they did not. And he actually he said he's a Fed. I have his screenshots of his Twitter post where he's like, I'm a Fed. You should talk to me. And I was just like, so I have that. There's a lot of shady actors, and there's a lot of stuff that. Here's the thing.
It seems to be.
What you need to prepare for in a J6 debate is that people like Destiny or whatever, all these people, they get their opinions from the news. So like, here's one thing you'll probably run across. Oh, they rubbed feces across the walls and stuff like that, which is never true, which is not true. That didn't happen. You need to be able to predict the lies that they're going to use. And it's usually like the same 10 things. You should go to Grok and be like, why do people say this was an insurrection? Here's the same.
Destiny's supposedly writing the book on it.
Oh, I'm writing the book about it not being that. So that's, yeah.
So I see that this guy, cringy leftist, ask, are you up to debate right now? Actually, no, I'm getting ready to end the show and go to bed in just a little bit. I've already had one debate tonight, and not that that's my limit, but no. Now, Tim might be up to debate you. He seems like he's in an antagonistic mood, and he may want to beat up on a leftist, but or somebody else might, but not me right now. But what would you want to debate about? We can always set something up. I am literally debating every day this week. So
where it's secretly like, this isn't even my final form.
That's it. I mean, Destiny supposedly, he's not won, as near as I can tell, he's not actually won a J6 debate. Right. He basically overpowered. He's overpowered a few people, but Rob Noor just destroyed him. Andrew destroyed him.
I watched that one,
and
he doesn't know what he's talking about, and again, even his legal arguments relies on a stupid understanding of our legal system. Like he cites like Colorado case or whatever like that.
Yes, that was the one. That was the pivot that was the linchpin of his whole argument, and then Rob undid it for him because he pointed out that was not a jury trial. It was 4 justices or was it 4 judges that anyway, it was a panel of people who basically decided that they were going to define it in an opinion as an insurrection in order to get Trump off of the ballot. And it had no legal merit, no legal weight whatsoever. And Destiny had never bothered to actually read the entire thing, and Rob did, and Rob's like, this doesn't say what you think it says, right?
Yeah.
Like this is clearly something that you know, is kind of made. It was kind of made up.
Yeah, it was surface level analysis, you know, from someone who thinks that talking fast and yelling makes them intelligent or makes them informed on a subject. He doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. None of them ever do, because again, they rely on CNN article titles, not even the whole article, for the context of what they're arguing.
You were wondering what fraud the Dems should be held responsible for is. Well, that's a really bad. That's really poor sentence structure. But watch this video from the beginning.
I was going to say, wasn't that the debate? Wasn't that the debate?
I just debated that, like, and I feel like I came out pretty good, because all Witt could say was, "Well, it just hasn't been proved yet." Like, his whole defense is, but nobody's actually charged him yet. I'm like, what? But the two things can be true at the same thing. You cannot be charged with anything, but still be guilty of the thing, and the thing could still be happening. Just because you're not currently under arrest for it doesn't mean that you haven't broken in and robbed the bank.
Is you talking about the guy who looked like a garden gnome in the corner?
Yes, yes. Yes, that's him.
And I noticed he was saying simultaneously, you know, they're not helping with fraud, but then it was like, they might not be stopping the fraud they know about. It's just like,
right.
It's the same thing.
Well, there's I mean, look, he was getting a little turned around by all of the stuff that Scott was throwing at him, which Scott does that intentionally. So that's how that works. $2 comes in from Chronos 420. Can incestiny, that's funny, / Destiny be removed from public record? Probably not. Probably not. So
I hope it's record and not recording, because I think he needs to stay away from recordings.
Yeah. So yeah, here's the tricky part of that fuck it button is, as Mullet Baby correctly pointed out, is when Walls was kinda, well, he wasn't charged, but they were investigating him, and the judge found that Walls had lied about the knowledge that he had about these events. A judge found that he had lied, but another federal judge dropped the case because because it had all of these Somalians as part of it. It was basically, they said it was racist and racial profiling, and another federal judge dropped it. But the original judge on the case, apparently, and I haven't read it myself, but I trust the people I got the information from. Apparently, that judge found that Wick had actually lied, and if a judge says you lied, there's probably something going on. Oh, come on, Grid. This never happens for Democrats all the time, every time. You're right. It's never that way. But yeah, I mean, nope, my wife's calling me. Stand by. Entertain the folks.
So, welcome to Grid 2 Motorsports. This is Grid 2. So, who wants to hear a very offensive joke that will completely destroy the stream? Just kidding. Does anybody have any questions about January 6th? Since I'm the expert on that, apparently. I think we need to debate January 7th, because that, is it really Christmas? Are the Easterners wrong? Find out next time.
Okay.
On the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Z.
Tim, I would love to hang out, but I've got to go inside. For those of you guys that don't know, one of the reasons why I don't hang out as much online as I was is because my mom, who is 73, had, at some point, she's had a stroke. It's fairly minor. No problems getting around or anything, but mentally, she can't remember a bunch of stuff. She has a lot of trouble being confused and some cognition things. And so I've been taking care of her at my house, and my wife was just calling to tell me that, she needs help with my mom. So I'm going to go do that. So I'm not abandoning you because I don't want to talk to you. I really do actually want to talk to you, but unfortunately I can't do that. In the meantime, guys, I will be back tomorrow night. I think it's at 7 o'clock or 7:30 tomorrow night. I forget which. And we're going to be debating Golden Shield or Golden Fleet, or Golden Dome versus Golden Fleet. And so I've got to go take care of that. You guys have been awesome. It's been a great night. Chronos 420, thank you so much for being so generous. I really appreciate the donations. It does. It actually means a lot to me, because at some point this show does need to start paying for itself. And in the meantime, I have to go do stuff. Tim, thank you so much for coming up. I really do appreciate it. We'll be in. I'll try and hit you back on X a little later. And in the meantime, as always, guys, be cool and wear glasses if you need them. And I will catch everyone later. See you.
Keep it touching.
That's right.